Here we are, Ducks Don't Get Cold Feet, number 35, and we are here with a very talented man, Roger Rasheed, who happened to be Leighton Hewitt's coach while he went to number one, among other things. Roger Rasheed had his own foundation helping children in sport, which is another great thing. Tennis coach, football star, and professional commentator. Welcome, Roger Rasheed. And I guess, you know, would this be fair to say became famous by being Leighton Hewitt's coach? Would that sort of be your claim to fame?
I think from an outsider's, you might, you know, if you look at, you know, if they think of who you are, they do attach you with Leighton Hewitt if you're Australian.
Yeah.
If you're, you know, if you think globally, you know, the tennis fraternity worldwide and in sport as well, they'll just see you as a high performance tennis coach at the very pointy end of the sport that's dealt with some really big brands as far as players and done quite, you know, done a decent job with a few of them.
It's a bit of, I think you're underselling yourself a lot, but it's, you know, you grew up here in Adelaide in McGill. How did it all start for you? Were you born in Australia? Did you come over? What's your background?
Interesting story, John Paul, because you know I suppose everyone's got an interesting backstory, but my dad would tell you that he came over with his two brothers and his sister. Eventually his two brothers and sister came over originally, and he was the youngest of four, and he stayed over to help his father and mother in Lebanon, so they're Lebanese.
Yep.
And his interesting story about my father, but he was young, and his father ended up passing away. They were out in the field, and his father passed away, and my dad carried him on his shoulders for over a kilometre without any help and up a hill, and then laid him in their house, and after he stayed with his mum for for 6 to 12 months, he then joined his two brothers and sisters here in Adelaide, and he would tell you that his plane went down and he had to swim by boat. It took 45 days to get here. All the big stories, you know, like they've got these great exaggerated stories, like we exaggerate.
I get it.
You know, as you get older, they do it on another level, and I think they can add a little bit more pepper to it. But so
So that's real? Like his brother passed away?
No, his father passed away.
His father passed away.
Yeah, the two brothers and sister, and one of his sister, Hayet, you actually employ her daughter, Jackie, and they came over, and then my dad stayed there to help the family, and his father died when they were working in a paddock, and he actually carried him. And I only knew this story. I found out this story when my father passed away 18 months ago.
Yeah.
And the stories started coming out. And I just thought,
wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's
what an experience. And my dad never told me about that, you know, and never told me that story. And I just thought, wow, imagine going through that as a young man. And you know?
Well, first of all, lifting 60, 70 kilos, like, and then not actually saying that. I mean, were you close with your father?
Yeah, I was close to my father. No, very close to my father. But my father didn't. He was more actions.
Yeah.
Quiet. When he came over, he stayed here for a year later. He went back and found my mum. They got married. They came back over. Lived in Port Adelaide for a year. He went to his first football game. He asked to go to a football game, and he thought, which was soccer over there. It's soccer. They sent him to Alberton Oval, so he supported Port Adelaide. Then he went and bought his house at McGill on Penfolds Road, and they're still there. So a long distance away. But my father was, and then my father worked with his brothers. They worked in delis, as they normally do. If you come over here and you can't speak English, you've got to, what do you do? Hospitality is probably one of them. And he worked with delis, and then he eventually broke out on his own. They went separate ways, amicably, but their own way. And my dad had a snack bar on Hutt Street called the Sandwich Basket for about 25 years. One of the most successful little venues in town. And my mum then worked there, and they made Lebanese food, and so that was a really all-incumbent sort of food place. But my dad we were close, but he didn't say a lot. he worked. You know, to his credit, he had to put food on the table.
Yeah.
So you're up in the morning at 5 o'clock, 4:30. You're going to the markets, in central markets. You're getting your fruit and veg. You're going to the bakery. Then you're going to your shop. You're opening the shop at 6 o'clock, and away you go. And I watched that. So I watched my father. When I look at some of my work ethic that I took part in and I deliver, where did I learn all of it? Well, it comes from the core, because I watched my father do detail, because he had to, as you know, you're in the industry of providing. If you've got to do it well, because people come into your shop, you've got to be hospitable. You've got to actually know how to deal with people. They get your product, it better be good. Otherwise, you won't get repeat entry. And so everything's got to be at a really high level. My dad, when I look back at it, did it so well that's where I probably learnt the detail.
Yeah.
When I look back at it.
So is this like with me growing up, everyone looks at Drake's now and goes, wow, you guys are so rich. And it was like, well, fuck, when I was at school, like we had fuck all. Yeah. And I was at a school with lots of very wealthy families. Which is
hard, right?
Yeah. And we were and it's hard to say now, but we were like the least wealthiest, if that's, and Dad never had, he left Gillis Plains High in year 9. He left with Theo Maris, and there's a couple of that Rat Pack that have done very well for themselves now. But back in the day when I was at school, all I saw my dad do was work, and that's actually when I did see him. So for me to see that, that's what I thought you had to do to be successful. And let's face it, it is.
It is. Yeah.
Work hard. And it's
a pretty simple formula, isn't it? When you really think about it, is that's what you do. You turn up and you go to work and you put in.
Yeah, and listening to a lot of the things you've done, now you can easily say that. You use the word elite a lot, I've noticed, like elite sport, or do they want to be an elite athlete, or do they? And you talk about something when you rock up, giving your best every time. So when a tennis player comes on court, that first shot, you should be able to say is going to be a winner ongoing. Do you call it something?
Yes, I just think every moment has value. You've got to attach every moment with some real value. So elite doesn't mean you've got to be Roger Federer or the best racing car driver in the world. It just means that elite, your version of elite.
Yeah.
So and that just means that you're offering yourself to whatever you're doing, and you're there and you're in the moment, and you give it the right attention. So I'm all for making your moments count, because that moment leads to something else. And so there's, and then what it does is it actually gives you mental security, because you're not doubting. To take away the doubt, you need to apply yourself and be there and be present all the time, because you get real data. If you're actually there half the time, and then when, it's interesting when someone says, you look at someone's results and you watch them and you think, well, they haven't really put in, their work ethic wasn't that good, their preparation wasn't great. What is that real data or not? It's actually not. It doesn't actually show a true indication of what I've got inside of me, because I'm not applying myself at a level to give me true data to the full capacity. So and I watched my dad do that.
Yeah.
He turned up. Reality, when you can look back, when you're young, we couldn't we wouldn't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
I'm just get home and
Yeah, I was stealing shit from the supermarket and eating it upstairs, watching the football on TV on a Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, I had a cigarette in my bedroom and thought no one knew. Cigarette in my bedroom and thought no one knew. And my mum said, "What? You can open the door?" And I'm coming out. And this is in the morning. And then I'm opening the windows trying to get the smoke out. And she said, "What's going on here?" And I said, the next door neighbours have just turned their fire on.
Oh, damn,
who would even think that could work, right?
Yeah.
So you sort of
you see it.
You don't see a lot when you're young.
Yeah.
But when you get older, as you've done, I'm sure, time and time again, you go, wow, that it was they did it a simple way as well.
Yeah.
It wasn't the complications that we've got in the modern world now that it's touched. Probably enormous competition that's out there as well. But wow, they went to work.
Yeah, and put head down, ass up, and worked hard. And I think that whole era did. So when they see things like distractions, like, you know, I was having a chat the other day about how the attention span of everyone is literally zero now. And you know, if you do something for more than a few seconds, all of a sudden, if you haven't got their attention there, where back in the day, you used to read books and, you know, a lot bigger attention span, where I think that's gone in this day and age.
What about your dad seeing you do podcasts and doing all these extra activities outside of the core business? What does he think? Does he ever look at you and go, what are you doing?
Yeah, 100%. But it's not only him. I see, because my boss is the general manager, and Bob, he sits there and he looks and he goes, what? I don't know what the fuck you're doing, but it appears to be good for the brand of Drake's. Holistically. And he wants an ROI on everything. So unfortunately for me, we head up like e-commerce, which there's no ROI on online shopping. Like my cheapest expense is my customers picking off the goods and putting it into their basket. And when I have to do that myself, it becomes a cost. So yeah, things have changed. And when you look at back in the day, those distractions were not there at all. And for me, what I did see was just flat out work the whole time. It was from morning to night, and often I wouldn't see night, I wouldn't see morning. So
what did you miss? What do you think you missed?
I missed
compared to what you might be doing now with your kids.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I missed a whole lot of that bonding with my father as a kid. Which I now get now.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky, because I think I'm one of the few that actually picked up that, okay, your dad's not here, he's out there working, where, you know, in this day and age, I'm lucky enough that I can be at all the sporting events. I can make sure I'm there for the kids' dance. I can, because of what my dad did for me.
He's offered you that opened the door, hasn't he?
Yeah, and my relationship with my dad now is better than it's ever been before, because yeah, we work with each other, but I don't take directions from him. Like, my directions come from Bob, and Dad understands that, you know, we play a spot. I mean, basically anything that's not a commercial is coming from the department, so he sees it, and you know, the reach of a podcast where you do with someone, you know, it's hitting people on all different angles, and that's what. You know, I say it's the Batman theory. You just got to be everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's in small amounts and doses. And I've watched a bit of your things there. And it's, you know, to me, this is the new way to communicate. And back in the day, it was one-on-one, or you might be lucky with a room full of people, or your store. But now, I mean, you know, I'm communicating like Ollie. We're texting, we're messaging. He's sending stupid memes at all hours of the night, because if you want to look at it, look at it. If you don't, you don't. And that's the way. I'm not one of these people that, you know, I don't want to be contacted. I'll be contacted when I feel ready to answer you back.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky we can set that scene, because it's not you have to do the work. The kids of today are working less than they ever did when we were working. And there's a whole ream of reasons for that. But, you know, we used to have to work hard, do all the hours, and then hopefully you'd get to the top. Those days are gone. You have to do it in a short amount of time frame these days, because you're not allowed to work that. No, it opens up the interesting part about, you know, that I've noticed people are starting to ask, bring a 4-day week, 4-day week back. So do your hours, but cram them in 4 days. I mean, I don't know.
Do you like that? I actually did that with I did that with an accounting firm, actually.
Yeah.
I did a whole piece with an accounting firm for a couple of years, and one of them was to drop back to a 4-day week. No one knows it's a 4-day week except them. So the business still runs, and it still ran to capacity. What I was trying to get out of for the owners was maximise the strength and the performance level of the people inside.
Yeah.
And also but they needed to actually buy in and actually give. So what they were doing is that they were actually giving more time to the business.
So
instead of looking for drag out time.
Yeah. See, I think there's definitely some merit in it. I mean, personally, there's different roles. Like we've got the head office roles, and you can be an accounts payable or receivable, and you can do your work in those 4 days. But it's a little bit harder to pad that out when you're working on the register, for instance.
Depends on the industry.
Yeah, but I do. I think people, if you're happy outside of work, you'll be far happier inside of work.
And that's the thing. They all walk into. So here's my point: is they all walk into Drake's under the umbrella of Drake's. Here we go, walking through the Drake umbrella, and you want everybody there to operate at capacity.
Yep.
You want them to put their best foot forward, come with the same energy as you do, but you're Drake's.
Yeah.
So your family Drake.
Yeah.
So different.
Yeah, I get that.
Different type of, it's your passion is your family business, and everyone's got a backstory as they walk in. Have they had a good day? Have they had a good night at home?
Yep.
Are they going through a relationship breakup? Are they might be in the time of their life. So everyone comes in at different levels. So it's about how do you maximize your team before they walk through the Drake umbrella, because that's what we're trying to do. Once they walk in here, get them to actually be able to work at capacity and actually try and leave a lot of the stuff behind.
So
and that's not actually easy.
It's very hard.
Yeah.
And Dad uses a term of Alice in Wonderland. Once you cross through the doors, it's showtime. And I'm like, and I'm look at that thing. I don't think my old man would have ever watched Alice in Wonderland, right? I'm flagging that. But I think his other one is if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you. And that's the Yellow Brick Road.
Yeah.
Once again, I'll guarantee he has never seen that movie. Like, he's not that.
He's selling it though.
He's selling it, right? But I agree with you. I think you can function better when you're in a better frame of mind, no matter what's happening. And you talk about elite. I'm saying you talk about elite, but you're actually saying no. It's not. I'm not talking about the Leighton Hewitts and the senior guy. I'm actually talking about anyone can perform at an elite level.
Yeah, my passion is getting people to activate themselves at a high level. So get value out of yourself.
Yeah.
We are so talented individually in our own fields. We're just so talented. Some of us are governed by people putting a ceiling on what we're allowed to do or allowed to think. And then, which I think is really poor because, for example, I'll give you an example of that later, but I just think we're so talented as individuals, and the important thing is how do I get the most out of myself? And we don't all know how.
Yeah.
We're not all brought up that way. We're not all leaders. The reality is the majority of people aren't leaders.
Yeah.
They like to be led.
Yeah.
But there's so much talent out there, and it's about how do I get, and my position has always been around performance. I've enjoyed watching people do well.
Yeah.
I love the fact that I can make people activate and do well. And if that means their earning capacity goes up and it allows them to have a successful life and help their family or do whatever it is, that's great. That gives me more joy than me getting the check.
So
you know what I mean.
Is this a common thing?
Except I'll take the check.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure you will, and because you have to, right?
You have to.
Yeah. And I hear people money doesn't buy happiness. Like it definitely helps. But when you have that philosophy, I look at my man, and to me, to an extent as well, I probably get more excited seeing someone on my team excel. And I'll use Ollie as an example. As much as I hate that Ollie's leaving, he's going to do something that he wants to do, albeit he'll come back when he's sick of editing weddings and stuff like that. But
you can keep going on, Ollie, but I just need to cut in. You did tell me off air that he did not press record on a podcast. And I just like to say that there's a reason why you're leaving, Ollie. And when you drill back and you dig deep, that's probably the kicker.
That is so good. But I look at it with Dad, and Dad gets so excited about seeing people come up through the company, and he always talks about identifying young talent. That's the words that we use, and you've said it exactly there. Like it's you get more excited by seeing other people excel. I mean, if they're going to earn more money, you're not going to get anything from that other than the satisfaction. Is that a word? I think I just made a word up.
And we can talk about a few of those stories. I'll tell you a few stories along the way. But we can go through a few of those, and that's with some of the different athletes. But it is amazing what what you actually do for them. You know what, and then when you see all that happen, and it doesn't have to be about the sport. It's quite inspiring. You know, you get inspired by their success.
Yeah.
You know, the way they actually have all of a sudden grabbed things and activated and actually taken it on and then become the leader. Because my position is pretty clear. To coach, whatever that is, whether it's sport or whether it's through a business or what have you, whether it's team or individual, my job's actually, my voice, I'm trying to make myself redundant as soon as I can. Yep. I'm leading at the start, and I'm trying to build the piece, put the pieces together and actually build this brand. But the reality is, they need to take over and be the leaders, and my voice becomes quieter and quieter, and I'm just really a maintenance piece after a while.
Yeah,
and I come in when I need to come in. When I feel like there's a space that I can make a real impact, then I go. But the rest, you're trying to develop leadership. So realistically, your company, I would see your company as you're actually here building leaders.
Yeah, it's all about people.
Do you know what I mean?
I've made it clear that my general manager is a detailed person and all over everything. I've never seen someone so all over something. And, you know, I've seen him destroy lawyers. I've seen him like people, and he's even said, you get paid to do this. Like, but his knowledge is exceptional. His detail is exceptional. And I had to come to the admission that I'm not that person. Like I need to find the best people in the business to keep this business long and running well and truly after I'm dead. And that's an art. And I think having that, you know, being surrounded by the right people, having the right people around you is what's going to make anyone successful. Is it the same in a single, you know, like a tennis environment when you're by yourself, or is it still a team?
It's a team. And you know, you made a good point there. The good point was you could see that you weren't that person.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't see. They want to be everything. Right, so we all want to be everything. So if I was coaching and thinking, I could be everything, and take and cover everything off, I'm actually delusional. You know, so yes, I have some assets, and then my job's to plug in a couple of things that I don't want to look after because I'm not quite. I might be skilled up, but am I the best value there, or is someone got better knowledge than me here? So you know, whether it was the physical performance person, I have a degree in that space, but there's a time that I took over in that space, but then when I wanted some other detail, I'd bring someone else in. Yeah. And because I didn't have the real knowledge that I needed, so therefore, and the reason why I brought them in is because I didn't want to let down the person. You know, I need to give them the best tools. Yeah. So in a single sport, you've got, let's take tennis for example, and you've got the player. They're the business owner. So they're the business owner. So they're sitting up here. They pay the bills. Is that good?
Yeah, it's like I was just looking for something to put over the top. Have we got can I have your pad or something?
We do have sprinklers.
Is a smoke alarm going up?
No, that'll be right. Sorry, it was just smoke. It's like it's on fire.
It's still on fire.
Yeah, that's right. That's so good.
The tennis player has it. They own the business. Yeah. And then they employ, but they need to take orders. But they employ a coach, and the coach has to be, if they're real, if they want to be really as good as they want to be, and they're legit, they need to empower the coach with all the power. So which is not that easy because they're paying the bills. Yeah. So. And then the coach has to be able to have the knowledge. So with me, I was able to, I build the team. So with one of my athletes, when I got the gig, I just fired everyone.
Like Elon Musk.
Just said, see you later.
Yeah.
And it was only 3 people, but they were prominent people who had been around for a while. They're in this team, agents.
Managers?
Managers, yeah.
Managers must be the worst problem.
Yeah, they're average. Agents, managers, call them whatever you like, physio, and there was someone else. And I said, and he said, why are we, I said, you know the conditions. And I said, why we're doing this is because those voices allowed you to sit at this level for years. So why would we want that voice around? Yeah. So here's a new voice, here's a new system. if I think they could actually be part of it, I'll keep them. If I don't think, they're out because they're around you. So, and we need to remove all the white noise.
Yeah.
Really simple platform. So, life's about keeping things pretty simple. We're not a computer. We need to function with some sort of simple things in our head. And so I will then find the agent, and I'll find whoever else I need to plug in there, but they need to agree on all the terms. So instead of the agent trying to impress his mates over here by getting the player to do this little 10-minute interview or this podcast or this something else, they have to go through me. And if I think it's got value and it actually can enhance the athlete doing their trade, that's okay. If I don't, see you later. And so that could cost the agent potentially lots of money because they're getting clip of the ticket. So I'm very much so the players, if they're real, they stay fully focused on the sport and the activity, and the endorsements turn up anyway. They're there. The big endorsements, they're always going to be there if you're good enough, and the little stuff you just got to push away and not get caught up in the bullshit once you become good. The hardest part about becoming successful is getting caught up in the bullshit. Yeah. Because all of a sudden, someone's ringing me. They're sending you a message. All of a sudden, people want to be around you because you're now successful. Yeah.
So it happens to me all the time.
Yeah. So there you go. So it's how do you, and my biggest thing is to them is to just keep those people away, because they will eventually dilute your energy that you're actually giving to the sport and why you're actually climbing up and why you're becoming successful. That stuff ends up diluting it, and your performance is not enhanced. It goes the other way. And then you have a sad athlete because they love the sport. They're not winning as much. And and a lot of them do this because they don't have security around the coaches, agents, and the people around them. They have really poor teams. And once you have a poor team that says yes to the athlete all the time and kisses their ass, you're in trouble.
Yeah. Yes, man.
Yes, men are really poor.
So,
and we have a lot of them in sport.
Is it so? When we talk about age, you were into football, AFL.
Yeah.
Aussie rules. Yeah. So you're into Aussie rules as a kid, quite successful as well. What was the age where you started playing tennis?
Transitioning. It was interesting.
Because you were pretty successful in tennis as well.
Yeah, decent. The footy was just, when you're coming from a Lebanese family, didn't have a lot of money. I got a football at the start of the year. And if you kicked it in the tree, go fucking get it. Now, if a kid kicks it in the tree, Dad, get me another one. Yeah. Isn't that how it works?
It's
exactly how
ridiculous.
Life works.
Yes.
It's exactly how the entitlement of the child. They kick it in a tree. I'm not getting that.
Yeah.
Just get me another one.
Yeah.
My dad's going, get it. And if it takes you 3 months, get it. That's the football. We can only afford a football. You decide to have a crack and kick it over the tree, which I used to do at home. I used to try and kick it over a tree that we had. My dad used to say, well, you've lost your footy. And I'd be trying to work my way up there and crash down. And,
that's a fucking good way to put it, because that's what happens.
You'd see it. It happens everywhere.
Mate, I'm guilty as charged.
We're all guilty.
It's ridiculous.
But we're all guilty.
It's ridiculous. I sit there and try to be the bad cop because I think kids are already privileged, and then they're getting literally this, and this, and it does my head in. I struggle with it. I think.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's off the charts what they. Anyway, we went sideways. We'll go back to that. We'll solve that problem in a minute.
Yeah.
But so footy was, that's what I played because it was easy. You grabbed a footy, kicked it with your mates. Played footy at school. Tennis was just a lunch. There was a lunchtime tournament at McGill Primary, and my mates were entering it. And so I thought, put my name down. Travel with your mates.
Yeah.
And never played tennis before. Never really picked up a racket, and I was 12. And ended up winning the tournament.
Well,
so how do you
Well, hang on. We've got something in common.
What did you win that week?
So maybe I didn't win.
McGill,
but
not McGill Primary either.
No, I was at Pembroke. I was there with my mate Ben Shaw, and
he was a Pembroke Old Scholar.
I'm a PAC boy, but we were there playing Pembroke. And, well, I wasn't. I was fucking there with my mate's house, and some kid didn't rock up, and they came up to me in the sideline and said, "Do you want to play?" And I'm like, "I never played fucking tennis before, right? I've hit the ball." Yeah. So I played, and I lost. So that was the difference. But I couldn't get my serve. Like, I could hit and outplay this bloke. But the serve ended up doing it fucking underarm. Looked like a...
Probably better, though, because you got the ball in, right?
Got the ball in.
Correct.
And I was like, I'm not bad at this. So then I started playing a bit. And my claim to fame is my mate Brett Daniels was mates with Leighton Hewitt.
Oh, yeah.
And Leighton Hewitt's dad was pretty psycho. Just for the record, like I don't know if you know anything about it, but Jesus Christ, we went to a game and fuck, his dad was fucking letting him have it, and I was like, Jesus, I was in year 8, I think. Is that so? I was in year 9. He must have been in year 8 or something. And I was like, fucking listen to this. Listen to like. I don't think you get away with that anymore.
No, the tennis parent. Oh, there's a few out there.
Is there?
Oh yeah. So what? And here's the.
So hang on,
go for it.
Sorry, my claim was I didn't win, but I stood up, played, and thought, "Fuck, I'm all right at this," and became a very bad tennis player.
Yeah,
but
frustrated tennis player.
No, I played a few games and thought I'm not good at this. Yeah, didn't enjoy it, right? Because I want to win, and tennis I wasn't winning. So
the hardest part is the serve.
That's the part
no point getting the balls in your hand and serving, and you serve 2 double faults and you've lost the game. Some people serve 3 and they go, "Oh, this is a shit game." Like I can hit the ball over if we could start by just hitting the ball over.
That's why squash I was good at.
Yeah,
because I could no matter where it went, it sort of went on the wall and I could win. So that was my story.
Yeah,
like yours. Little bit different.
Very similar.
Yeah, very similar.
We went slightly different paths.
Slightly different paths. So you went out and won this tournament at McGill.
Just a school tournament. It was a school little competition.
Yeah.
Like any kid, if you win something, you like it.
Yeah.
You know, like we all do. So you're like a kid in a lolly shop. All of a sudden you get a little tiny trophy and you come home and mum and dad don't think anything of it. And then I had an auntie of mine who was playing tennis and playing club tennis, and she heard about it, and so she decided to get me some coaching.
Yeah,
I just went with it, and then she also went and so she got South Australia's best coach. She tried to find out who that was, saw if I could go in and have a session with him. I had a session on a Sunday at some time, shitting my pants. He said, he was a school teacher as well, and he came up to me and he said, "Do you know what this word means?" And I've gone, "Yeah, I learnt it today at school." I'm thinking, "Fuck you, an idiot! It's Sunday." So I was just shitting my pants, and then she also, on top of that, she could see that I had some sporting prowess, but I was a state footballer as well and all these sort of things. So she went away, it's about 93, she's still alive, 93, and went and tried to get me some scholarships at some colleges to go. She knew I was going into year 8 and I needed somewhere where I could actually enhance my sporting pathway. So ended up getting a scholarship at PAC, so I could have seen you there. I'm a bit older than you though. PAC, Saints, and Pembroke. I cried for 2 days because I didn't want to go to an all-boys school.
Yeah.
At the time, all my mates were going to Nord High.
Yeah.
Or Morialta.
Yeah, Morialta.
And I was like, God, I need to go to
dated a few girls from Morialta.
Did you?
Yeah.
And no.
We won't go into it.
Okay. Just thought I'd ask. I decided to go to Pembroke, and that's where I got a sports scholarship there, and I played tennis and football there combined. And at year 10, during year 10, I made the decision that I would give tennis a go. I won a scholarship to John Newcomb's Tennis Ranch in Texas, in New Braunfels, Texas, and then I thought I need to go for tennis first.
You're like 15.
I was 15, yeah. Robert Oatey was, there was a guy called Robert Oatey. I'm not sure if you know the Oatey name, the famous football name. He was like my second dad. He passed away a couple of years ago. Now, he made sure I got into the school. He was there. John Inverarity, who had played Australian cricket for, he was the vice principal there as well. And we had a few other sporting people there. So it was for me, it was actually a really good playground.
Yeah.
And Robert would pick me up every single morning at about 6:15, would be on the tennis courts for 2 hours before school started.
So what age was this?
I was young. That was happening from year 8, 9 and 10.
Yeah. See, I think this is the part that I struggle to come to terms with my own kids, 7 and 8.
Waking up.
No, they fucking wake up. Don't worry about that. But it's if you're going to excel at something, you need to do that, don't you? Like you know, there's no just falling into being a professional athlete. For me, that's why I do the motor racing. I'm not going to ever be a professional athlete, but you can sort of be a bit older.
Yeah.
In saying that, the average F1 guys are all 30 years older and younger.
Yeah.
But as someone that's got a kid and they want them to succeed, at what stage do you say, you just, how hard do you push?
You don't really. I was never pushed because my dad was working. My mum didn't. They didn't really know what was going on, so I was really self-motivated. I love sport, so I loved being out there. Footy was easy. Tennis just sort of took its own shape. It wasn't parent-driven. My parents didn't play tennis, so they didn't say go to the local tennis court. Some do, and a lot of parents who have been who enjoyed certain sports, their kids follow that sport. And I think you're right. There's got to be there's a time when repetition matters.
Yeah.
Because you've got to repeat, you've got a muscle memory, you've got to actually learn some skills, and you've got to be able to do it over and over. It's like reading a book, right? So if you and I start reading this week, I'm probably going to read one book a week. Yeah. You might read, I'm not sure, half.
Yeah,
okay, so I'll be slightly better reader than you because I've read one and you've read a half. So the more you do, the more you actually you develop your skill. And then there's a talent skill set, a natural talent skill set that might be available to you as well, that in your repertoire that might help you as well. So there's work ethic, there's skill set, and then there's your ability to want to enjoy competition.
Yeah.
Some people don't like competing.
Yeah.
So that was for me. That all came quite natural. It was interesting. It was and maybe the work ethic. I think that part, the detail, that was definitely from my parents, but they weren't pushing it. I just watched it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And my dad was like, my dad always just said, well, you just got to go out there and give your best every day.
Yeah.
Because that's what he did. That was his sport. His sport was going to work. That was his sport.
Yeah.
He had to make that work and be as good as he could with that. But he would always come out of the blue. I'd remember I'd be sitting on the beanbag in front of TV. We'd be watching tennis and we'd be watching Wimbledon, late at night. I'd have a Milo in my hand and, young kid and really excited that dad's going to wake you up, and he'd just bark something out of the blue. He'd say, "Gee, the serve's important," and I'd be thinking, "Oh, shut up,"
That's right.
Wouldn't say anything, but
it was actually right.
He was 100% right. The serve's so critical, like that. He would always say, "Oh, why don't you go down and just serve?" And I would just be quiet. But so he was actually quite smart and understanding the game, but he never threw it at me, and like I now with my daughter, who's she's 15, just turned 15, but because I'm involved in the sporting pathway and she's in it, it's hard to stay really
dad
and
coach.
Not really coach. I've decided I'll never go there unless she asks me for stuff. I'm almost probably the polar opposite. I'm there being dad. I'll put a few things out there. If she wants to kick the footy, I'll kick the footy. I'll say a few things every now and then. I won't do much because I want her to drag me to do it. Do you know what I mean? Because I can't be the coach. She's seen the coach. Yeah. She's followed the coach. She's been on the biggest stage in the world, watching the coach do his work with the elite player the week before every Grand Slam, where it's at its most heightened. The energy sources around that, the tension, the nervous energy is so heightened, and also the detail is so intense because they're the best players in the world who can win the biggest event in the world. So she's seen her dad in that environment. That's her photocopy machine. So she doesn't need me to deliver that with her.
So she played tennis?
She played tennis. But then didn't like. She's an introvert.
Yeah.
So
won't like the limelight.
Didn't like being exposed. One person on the court, everybody watching, and also then you've got your dad, I'm hiding behind a tree. She was playing with the boys, and that didn't go down too well as well. I had one mother and family who refused to let their son play her.
Really? That goes on still?
Yeah, and I thought, oh my God. And so she would have been 10, 11, and I'm like, why? I said, get your son to beat her up. beat her up.
Yeah.
You know, if she, anyway, so I just, and they refused, and it was, you know, and I would sit, I'd be so far away with I'd actually go to the tennis with my headphones in. I couldn't handle it. So you talk about the parent.
Yeah.
And you talk about Leighton's father. Well, what happens around the tennis court is there's a tennis court and there's a fence, and parents stand right near the court. And some of them are officiating, you know, because when they're young, you score. You come on and you score.
Yeah.
And it gets intense. And my daughter's very first tennis match, she's 9 or something. I can't remember. I think it was about that, 9 or 8. And she's playing with the boys. She Burnside. Was she at Burnside School? Oh, I think it was Burnside primary school. Yeah, I should know that. Shouldn't I? I should remember.
It's a small detail.
It's
Small one of the schools.
And she's playing, and I'm the ump. So, and I'm the ump, and there's a boy who's playing her who might have been a year older, and the father's giving him so much information before they play. And I'm the umpire, and I'm sitting here, and I'm like, oh, this is going to do my head in. I've got my little headphones in with a bit of music in the background, just so sometimes I might just phase out. And away they go, and I'm helping both of them because my daughter knows where to stand and stuff. But the whole part of this is education. It's, you know, so I'm telling the boy to stand here when she's serving, you know, and yep, that's it. You move over that side and stand up. No, don't, you're standing too close. You know, just trying to give them a gauge of so the game moves. Anyway, my daughter's looking at me, fucked off. What are you doing? Anyway, yeah, give daggers. She's down 3-love, 0-3. She's spitting the dummy, like literally spitting the dummy. Anyway, she comes off the change of ends and they cross over the ends, and she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "What do you mean, what am I doing?" "Why are you helping? You're helping him. Why are you helping?" I said, "What are you doing?" She said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, don't worry about me, because you haven't been able to, you're just not even concentrating on playing the game now. Yeah. So why don't you do something about it? I'm just telling him where to stand because it's the right thing to do, like I'll tell you. So why don't you do something about it?" She looked at me and nearly ripped my head off, and walked over and went and won the next 6 games straight. And then she shook hands and she threw a racket at me and said, "That's the last game I'm playing."
No shit. That was it.
No, she didn't. No, it wasn't. It ended up not being the last game. But what I did love from that is that she problem solved.
Yeah.
And I said, "What are you going to do about it?" And she thought, "Okay, this is not going to work out, me having a crack at Dad."
So if you look at children in sport, have you been able to see someone that you go, okay, this person has what it takes, or does that just happen?
You can see, that's an interesting question. It's a good question. I think it's in general, but you can see someone naturally that's got some natural skills, yeah, and some athletic skill sets and ball sense, and you know, if you see someone play tennis, you go, wow, they can put the ball on the middle of the strings every time. Yeah, even when they're running around and they're trying to coordinate, they can get the ball to land in the middle of the racket. That's pretty cool. And then if they can manipulate their hand or something, and same with football, if they can make the ball spin properly when they're under a bit of pressure, they can still put it to their boot and they can coordinate a few things. You go, oh, they've got a skill set, a hand-eye skill set. So that's the first thing you identify. And then as they get a little bit older, you can see whether they've got some legitimate weapons. To be really, really good, like elite in your sport, not just be part of your sport globally, so on the tennis tour, or be a footballer that's in the AFL code, or a netballer, but to be the best in that area, you need to have some legitimate weapons. In life, we have to have weapons. It's like a racing car driver, right? Yeah. Say you've got the same cars, say in the Porsche Carrera Cup Series, same cars.
Exactly.
What are your weapons?
Yeah.
Who can really drive?
It has to be braking. It has to come down to a
feel
few
of the
things.
car.
Yeah,
people, how they can feel the car through how they feel the car.
Not getting sideways. Like there's all these things that.
Do they really love to compete? Do I want to really put my elbows out?
Yeah.
You know, all those sort of things. So they're the things that I end up looking for, those little details that you'll see through the journey of young kids playing sport. You go, oh, they've got something a bit different. That's cool.
So do you look for that now? I mean, you obviously had a reasonably successful tennis career.
Yeah, I had to stop. I stopped really young. So I started went to the US when I was 15. Stayed there for a year, then went to the Institute of Sport for about 3 or 4 months. I didn't really...
Was that in Canberra?
Yeah, I didn't like the Canberra experience because you just had this... You went from your home base to live in Canberra.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've lived in Canberra, but
No, I've been there. It's a hole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's,
Oh,
so it's there for a reason.
Yeah.
And then so what they did originally, they thought, which was a good idea, what they did for a good idea is they thought, we'll put a sports institute there, and then we'll get all the athletes to go and train there together. But what they, in hindsight, I mean, originally it was a good idea, but fuck, how boring is it? Outside of your sport, what do I do next? Where I can only watch so much grass grow, and there's nothing else to do. I can't, where do I go? So I think it became, eventually that's why now with the AIS, which is a really good formula, it's all planted all around Australia. So there's the Winter Olympics AIS group there in Queensland. There was hockey in WA. There's cycling here. There's all sorts. So it's now spread out around the country because they've come to the realisation that we can't just put everyone in one place.
Yep.
So I went there, and I was the youngest by a couple of years in the tennis program. I stayed there for 3 months. I flew home, I reckon, for the first 4 weeks every weekend, and because I just didn't know what to do. And then I was out of the institute. It just wasn't my cup of tea. And then I travelled professionally, really young. And
you remember your first paid gig?
Yeah, well, yes, I do. So my very first paid gig at 16, I qualified at the Australian Open. So to let people know that don't know, that's ridiculous. Yeah,
yeah,
it's a bit ridiculous. I remember I started at 12, right? So 4 years. In 4 years, I've gone from hitting my first tennis ball at my little school competition, and 4 years later, I've qualified. I've had to win 3 matches in the qualifying rounds to get into a major sporting event in the world. Pretty stupid, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can't comprehend that.
Yeah.
So it just happened, and there was no rhyme or reason. I wasn't one of these prodigy kids that was following somewhere.
Yeah.
It's just, and so so that was my first one. I was at Kooyong on the grass. I remember saying to John Fitzgerald, I said, I'm playing so-and-so from the US. He just looked at me, and Fitzy's a lot older than me. And he said, he's got the biggest serve in the world.
That's such good confidence for you.
I've gone, what the fuck? Thanks, John. Great. So, we're on grass at the time. So it's lightning.
On grass?
Yeah, it's on a grass. Kooyong was grass. So that was
playing.
The next year, I wasn't on grass. I thought Fitzy was giving me that comment. But, and so that's how we dealt with, that was my first experience. But it was my first paycheck. I wasn't really thinking about that, but it was my first paycheck. It was decent. I can't remember what it was now. It might have been a couple of grand at the time. Now, to give you an example, your first round paycheck at the Australian Open now is about 75,000.
Wow.
80,000.
Is it really?
Yeah, to lose first round. And at some events at the US Open, it's 100,000. Yeah, so it's on average at the Australian Open, French Open, Wimbledon, US Open, it's on average to $100,000 when you're in the main draw and you lose the first round.
So, okay, that's more than I thought. I don't follow tennis.
You got to get in the draw though.
You got to get there.
It's not every tournament, but they should be big money. They're big money earners. They've got their revenue streams are big, so they need to. The players should be getting rewarded accordingly. So, but in saying that, they're only, to give you an example, they're probably the pool of money that comes out to the players is about 25%.
So 75% goes to organisers.
Yeah. So,
So the players only get 25. So this is what UFC had a bit of a fight about because the pay-per-view was getting more, hence why.
A lot of sports have this issue.
People like Logan Paul who are YouTubers, they've actually combined into the contracts to say, hey, we want 1% of that, which pretty clever.
Yeah.
Colin McGregor, I think, was the first to sort of say, hey, we need more money. We're the ones doing all the work. And rightly so. So when we talk about you starting kids in sport, how much do you push? And I do mention Leighton Hewitt's dad because it was a pretty hardcore dig. And we were watching it thinking, fuck, because Leighton was pretty small. He was as small as me. maybe he was a bit better at tennis. But I
Only just. By the sounds of your story, probably just.
well, he was playing like A grade in year 8, so he was playing the top he could play, and I was like, seeing that from a father pushing that hard, and I look at it now, and you get a few parents at the sporting events a little bit overzealous.
Really, mind-boggling. It does my head in.
It's crazy. It's a bit out there, huh? Like I'm totally
off the charts.
I know I'm definitely not that person. I definitely I'm not, but I see it not to the extent that I saw it back. No, I was probably in the 90s.
Isn't it amazing?
I was in the 90s.
Isn't it amazing how good the parent is? Have you ever thought about that?
Oh, you've been sarcastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
How fucking good is a parent? The kid. How do you drop that mark? How could you throw the ball there? Why aren't you running that? Why don't you run quicker here? Like, you'd swear that the parent is Usain Bolt, Roger Federer, and Serena Williams, and a few others all mixed in, because the perfectionism of the parent supporter is the one thing that creates the biggest carnage pile in kids' sport, and then in elite, and then in sport as a profession, because they sit there and their judgment level
goes out the window when it comes to their own kids.
They have zero idea. It's just the judgment's off the charts. And they think that their kids should be able to do X, Y, and Z every single time that anything is, they have an opportunity, that it should look like this. And it's such a bad, there's a reason why a lot of kids stop playing sport as they get better and better, because it's too intensified. So the scrap heap of athletes around the world, globally, is way bigger. We would have tennis, any sport in the world, the level would even be, it would be probably quadrupled. It might be tenfold if it hadn't have got rid of so many athletes along the way, because of they just wouldn't have, so Leighton, people like Leighton, for what you're saying, and it is well documented. He was pushed pretty hard.
Oh, I saw it. So
he's lucky to get through the crack.
Yeah.
He obviously had something in him
that
was able to get him to fight against that and go, I'll keep showing you, and I'll show you, sort of thing. I'll show you my parents.
Yeah.
And they get through. There's the other side that try that, not up for it, they give up.
Yeah.
They just go, I'm not going to do this anymore. My easy way out is to cut this all noise out. I'll just stop. So there's a big scrap heap around it, because and look, you can push. My idea of pushing your child is, if they take you there, then you can have a hand up against their back when they need to, because they'll go through a roller coaster ride. So as they get a bit older, they're judged a little bit. They're scrutinised more, because they might be in state squads or national teams, and if they are, or they're just in their district, their club scene. They're trying to get in the A's or B's, so they might get scrutinised a bit more. So your job might be there to enhance them to just keep going. Let's keep going. Let's come out there. I'll take you for a kick, or I'll take you for a hit, or throw some hoops, or whatever it is, whatever they do, in whether it's sport or anything else. Let's just keep going.
Yeah.
Just to get them to feel that it's okay to be uncomfortable, and don't, you know what I mean? The hardest part is to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And actually sit in that space and get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable, and then once you can do that, you just keep going, because you're all and being happy to deal with it and let them sit in the emotion of what that is, whatever the emotions is. They're actually good. I said recently to an athlete that I helped that was in the Winter Olympics, whatever the emotions are on the day of your competition tomorrow, as we've been saying for the last 6 months, let them just sit and go, these are the emotions I'm meant to be having. They're real and they're normal, and I'm okay because I've done all the foundation work. I've done the work, but just don't get derailed by the emotions of it, and just keep working forward. And I think with young kids, they're going to get challenged, because when they're younger, your kids' age is 7 and 8. They're in the teams.
Yeah.
If they want to play, they're in the teams.
Correct.
When you get a little bit older, there's an A's and a B's.
Yeah.
Now you're judged.
Yeah.
The B's is, I'm not good enough to get in the A's.
Yeah.
It's not that just might be your standard at the moment, and that's great. And that you get a game of sport. It's more, I'm not good enough. And then the parent gets involved in that, and why is my kid not picked, and this and that. And so, you know what I mean? So does that happen quite a lot?
A lot. Yeah, it's. I guess I never had that. Well, when I was, and I played all sports. Like I was rowing and football, cricket, hockey.
You might not have cared, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to. I wanted to play well in whatever one I was in, whether it was A's or B's or first 18 or second 18. I just wanted to make sure that I could play well
And that's
because I
what it
was
should be.
naturally, I'm an athletic kind of person, and not that I realised it after school, but fuck. But I definitely at school, because I was on the water my whole life, I was skiing and kneeboarding and stuff like that. So for me, I have a mindset of winning, but I wouldn't. I never like played baseball for Australia, and like I thought there was a chance that maybe I got a little bit of a look out with the Toronto Blue Jays when a scout came to Adelaide, and in the end, I started working. Was I not good enough? Probably not, but there was a lot of work, and one of my mates, Kim Ashworth, he got picked up by the Dodgers AAA, and at the age of 17, he could throw a 95-mile-an-hour fastball.
Wow, that's big.
Yeah, and Kim he's now back in Adelaide, but literally burnt like back. This is before I think they started looking after the arms of pitchers.
That's right.
And I look at what he did, and it looked like a bit of fun, but fuck, it was a lot of hard work with no money.
Yeah.
And lucky for me, I've worked full time my whole life. So out of all my friends, I've had money, not because of like dad's given me money. The fact is I've fucking started working while I was at school and had money. So for me, did I want to lose that? No, I didn't. And I saw, you could get paid well. Like you can see some of the athletes today, and so, would you call it ridiculous salaries? If someone can get, $50 million for driving a Formula One car, fucking good on you.
Yeah.
Like if someone is going to pay that, and
go for it.
and like you look at Ricardo, I think that's an interesting topic. I don't know if you follow F1, but Ricardo chased money going at Renault, and why did he leave? Well, clearly he left for money. And then, unfortunately, then he leaves again, goes into McLaren, meant to be coaching the younger guy, where the younger guy is outperforming the teacher. Yeah. So I think Daniel's I love Daniel Ricciardo, don't get me wrong. I reckon he's amazing under brakes, and you can complain about the car all you like, but when your teammates in potentially the same car outperforming you, your contract's in trouble.
Yeah.
And there's Drive to Survive series on Netflix. It really shows it's a fucking brutal sport.
Yep.
And that's F1. That's when you see these kids and you talk about identifying talent. The Red Bull guys are picked up at the age of 8, age of 12, and that they are just harnessed and kept. And they must have hundreds of these kids.
Oh, yeah.
They just sit there and then they go, okay, Formula One's a bit different because it's who can bring the most money to the team. And it doesn't matter
where did his money come from?
His old man is very wealthy.
Right.
Very well. Wealthy to the stage that they actually bought the F1 car that he won Monaco in for him.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So that's fucking
pretty cool.
Is that pretty cool? I think that. That's cool. So Daniel, they have to bring money, and it can be from whoever, but they bring money to the table, and that helps them out. And
I was wondering where that came from.
Yeah, so that's how they, and obviously you need to show some talent. But for me, recently, this is hard hitting. I recently had a race meet in Sydney.
Yep.
First time ever in my car in the wet. And when I mean wet, I mean fucking torrential. Couldn't see. Like, I could not see you. 200 k's an hour down.
I can't believe they kept it going.
Yeah. It was. So anyway, there were other people going faster than me. And it was the first time in my life I'd been scared in the car. Like, I'm thinking 200 k's, cannot see 2 meters in front. I'm just fucking relying on that guy is going to brake then.
Yes.
And so I played that game. And then I had a bit of a problem because it was so wet. There was a bit of electrical. So when I was braking, the car was accelerating. Like, wasn't exactly happy days in the wet. And it sort of fucked with my head. And then, so we got the car ready for the final race. I went out there this isn't like my fucking steering wheel came off. Like I don't
No
think.
way.
So I'm doing my warm up and I didn't put my steering wheel on properly. That's how fucking disconnected.
That's how you were.
And I'm like, fuck. So they're going, what are you doing? Because the lap was warming up and I'm trying to put my So this shows you where this never happened in my life. Like, and I'm sitting there holding a wheel, like what a dickhead, right? So I put it back on, caught up. Had the problem again in race 2. And then it got to race 3 and I was fucking rattled by that stage. I went out on slicks, should have gone out on wet. I had all this problem. I'm getting to the story. But I was mentally fucked. I got to the last race. I was racing with guys that were clearly faster than me. And I got to that last race and I was mentally, I don't think it's my ego, but my confidence was shot.
Yep.
How do you help someone? And let's say I was racing Formula One, which I'm not. If anyone's out there wants to sponsor, no.
I mean,
Red Bull. But I was mentally shot. And for the first time in my life, I was like going, I'm mentally scarred here. I've scarred myself. And I couldn't get out of it in that last session I had. I couldn't change my mindset to the stage where luckily, my car kept on accelerating while braking. So I pulled into the pits and stopped the race. I felt once I came in, I was like, fuck.
Relieved. Yeah.
Never had that before, ever, because I don't have millions of people watching us. But what is that? Does that happen with an elite?
Yeah, it's common. It's common everywhere, right across the board. So a couple of things straight off the bat. You said you hadn't raced in the wet.
Yeah, in that car.
In that car.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, in that car, but in the wet you have.
I have.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
But this car was not fun.
So if you're going into sort of extreme weather conditions and so that's challenging in its own right.
Yeah.
We all like the perfect conditions.
Perfect.
So that's challenging in its own right. Some people love the wet and go bring it.
Yep.
Others will.
I would say I was that.
You don't mind the wet?
I don't mind it, but I was not feeling it in this. I was feeling my breaking points when they were near it. I was so fucking wet, like open cedar.
Yeah.
Like I was like, and I spun on my first race because I went out in slicks, should have gone out in wets.
Yeah.
Bad decision. But that I lasted 3 laps before I was.
So is that your decision, or have you got an engineer?
Well,
You generally
it's a team. I qualified in 3rd.
Yeah. So it sounds like you had a mixed bag from the
Oh, fucking totally.
mixed bag from the information how you're going to set up, because in those times your job's to keep it as simple as possible.
Yep.
Simplicity is your key because it's pissing with rain.
Yep.
So I need to have some really clear indicators of what I'm going to do in a simple way, so I can actually just deal with the basics really well, because it's hard enough in the rain. We're going to have poor vision. I'm going at speed. That's challenging. What are my clear things that I'm going to do just for that, just to deal with that? And are we all set up for it? What's the worst case scenario? It's going to be pissing with rain. Is my car set up for the worst scenario? Because I need to be. Because I need to be able to deal with that, so I've got confidence when I go out there that my car's good. It's my safety space. So
Right.
You probably didn't have a lot of that going on by the sounds of it.
I can tell you, I have a wet map on my map. The owner of the race team wanted to prove to the Sydney people that we could beat them, right? That's in
Right.
his head. And I didn't pick this up until after. I had a wet map we weren't using. Had a boost button that I was saying they were using boost on. I couldn't even get fucking grip accelerating up a hill. Like the thing was. And so I had all these things in my mind going, why the fuck aren't I putting it on my wet map? Why am I pressing my boost button when I can't even so there was lots of complications. So now you're saying this is like therapy.
Yeah,
It's unfolding to why I think I fucked up so bad.
100%. It's the only thing. You detailed it before you got out there. Sounds like it was all wrong.
Yeah.
And so then that creates chaos when you're trying to be in your calmest. When you're out there, you're racing, you're going fast. So you got a lot of other people going fast around you. Competitive environment. You want to keep it. It needs to be as fluid and as simple as possible in your head. Doesn't need to be. You don't have to be worrying about shit. I can't feel my tire. I can't feel the grip. I can't feel this. This is not feeling right. But so there might be one thing that comes up and you deal with it, but not a whole lot of things. So your mind was your energy was nowhere near on the racetrack. It was all about the stuff around you.
100%.
And that's why it sort of turned into a train wreck. And sounds like you weren't set, your engineer, those guys hadn't actually started the right way. So they didn't give you that belief system that you need to just go out and go bang.
Fuck.
That's
That's exactly what fucking happened. And the only thing that made up for it was going to the F1 with Red Bull the next day, because I was happy to get the fuck out of Sydney.
So you can see how that hemorrhages a lot of people, right? So there's a lot of people that would tell every weekend, I could get a whole lot of people to step out of cars and tell that same story. So when I say invest in people to deal with your teams and build your teams and actually work at getting the team to function properly, there's a reason why. Because if someone was overlooking the way the team operates, not the team owner. If the team owner put someone in there to deal with how do we operate and get the best value out of our team, that stuff would never happen. Because the well-managed teams, they're just detailed. They're on it. Like they just, so the drivers or the performer needs to be able to get out there and not have any concern except performing. Nothing else should be. And then if something happens during the race, as you know, with your car, you deal with it at the time.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't be going out there with your issues. And you sort of went out there with issues.
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting you put that as so I can imagine as an elite level, what is the difference between me and, like what sort of mindset do you think you need? Is it similar, or are they like, dude, you fucking, mate, you're nowhere near the mindset of
not
Daniel
much.
Ricciardo? Or like, is it like this? Let's say the skill levels, everyone says, oh, like I'd love to drive a Formula One car. I mean, the new Formula One cars look a lot trickier than the ones previous, but everyone thinks, well, if I was in the same car, I'm assuming every driver thinks this. Just like, if I was in the same car, I'd get I wouldn't say win, but I could get close. Yeah. But the reality is, if I've been on the other end of, I can't remember the guy's name. It was back in the Shep out, back in the day. It was a good tennis player. I've been on the other end trying to hit a serve back, and you can't even see the fucking ball. So what's the difference, do you think, between that professional making a living and someone that's just doing it as an amateur?
Yeah. So there are a lot of people that play tennis I'll take tennis for example.
Yeah.
That play tennis every week, that walk out and have your experience. And there's a reason why they're ranked 75 in the world.
Yeah.
Or 100 in the world.
Yeah.
Or 150 in the world or 200 in the world. And then there's the guys that don't let that sort of turn up. And when they do, they protect the athlete. So if there's stuff going on, they protect the athlete. They give them a couple of simple messages and then go out there and just execute. And then there's the athlete that can override all of that. So there's that competitive nature where there are athletes that can absorb all of that stuff that you did and still find a way.
Yeah.
And they're quite calm with a few different balls in the air. That turn up. Okay, I'll manage myself. I just like to compete, so I'll make something happen anyway.
Yeah.
And again, it's about your skill set as well. I'm guessing there are some racing car drivers and like athletes, they have different ways to win, not just one way to win.
Yeah.
It's got to look like this for me to win.
Yeah.
If it doesn't look like this, I've got this way I can win. I can win with this as well. I can win with that. You know what I mean?
There's so many variables.
There's some, they can find other ways to win. And some athletes only need it this way. They need to have the perfect weather. They need to be in the car when it's good weather.
Yeah.
When it's rain, oh fuck, I got no chance.
Yeah.
I haven't got those skills. I don't really trust the combination. Whereas, so there's that type of athlete as well. So I guess what I'm saying is, there's a lot that makes up the landscape, and it's just the one that can. I just still think you've got to have weapons. The number one thing is you must have weapons attached to your brand.
Armory.
Yeah. If you don't, and you can't just have one, the majority have one. The best, the very, very best, they have 3 or 4
So,
or 5.
Talk about weapons. Tennis, it's a serve.
It can be So it could be a forehand. So weapons could be. It could be a forehand.
Yeah.
But a lot of people have. So the game at the moment now is structured where when the ball's in play, you're trying to generally hit the majority of balls on your forehand side.
Yeah.
Run around your backhand, hit your big forehand. So that could be a weapon. But a lot of players do that. But some have a big serve. Some have weapons where they play the big points very freely. That's a weapon. Changing the speed of the ball. Yeah. The majority hit a ball between a range of certain kilometres. Then there are the guys that have got weapons where they can hit a forehand from 100 kilometres an hour at their average, and then all of a sudden hit one at 160.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden that ball getting from A to B is so much quicker. You can actually just hit a winner off that ball.
Yeah.
Whereas some guys can hit it from 100 and get to 120.
And the accuracy.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm, like I said, very short tennis career, but when you watch it, you go, it's very talented.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you should think when you're watching any professional sport.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, what do you think are 3 characteristics of people that become a professional that you've dealt with? What are 3 things that seems to be common in between them? It's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Because it might not be... I mean, you've basically said been able to deal with multiple situations.
Yeah, they're all multiple.
Yeah.
They all thrive on work.
Yeah.
Work ethic.
Yeah.
Some need to be guided there, but they thrive in it. So, you know what I mean? Like some can get lazy at some points, but all I do with my people is I put them to work. So here's a formula. It's not a bullshit formula. I won't sugarcoat it. We go to work. So when we go to play the match, we have full belief. Your belief system is so topped up because you've done everything. You're not then just trying to turn the switch on all of a sudden and say, where is it?
Yeah.
That it's here and we're just pushing it here into match competition now. Yeah. So that creates a lot of belief. It's very much the way Rafa Nadal plays. That's the way I did it with Leighton and every other person that I've worked with. I've always talked about what's their training look like, because you need to mirror image, because we can't have what we do as people is we will always have doubt at some point. Now, doubt will get pushed away if we can back it up with, I've done all the work.
Yeah.
Why am I doubting? Because I've done all the work. So work ethic's number one. I think another characteristic is they've got to love the competition. They love competition.
Yeah.
Like me and you, let's fight.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So, and they're, the third one.
Well, I think when you said the heart, like when you come to train, you're on the whole time. And the equivalent in a car is if you haven't got new tyres every time, you're comparing a lap time on subpar tyres. And unfortunately, the tyres...
You can't get new tyres all the time.
Yeah. Mate,
you'd love to, wouldn't you?
Well, you have to. And that's why in Formula One, you see they do 10 laps and they're fucking changing. Oh, the tyres are off, they're off. I mean, in a normal person's driving, they're not. They're perfectly in control going around a corner, but you can't compare your best if you don't have the best equipment at the time. And I think you're saying the same with tennis. I mean, you have to treat practice like it's...
Have you got a simulator?
I do.
So I'll tell you, I help a guy, used to live in Adelaide, lives in Melbourne. He drives in the Porsche Carrera Cup Series. Help a couple of guys, but he's as an amateur, he's an older guy, he's 55, loves it.
Yeah.
His name's Graham Williams. He's a ripping guy. And, he just wants to, he rang me up and said, oh, look, about 4 years ago and said, look, I'm probably not the sort of guy that you would help. Yeah. You're thinking that, why would you want to help me?
Yeah.
But I've heard about your staff. I'd love to learn how to transition. He's got a successful business, very successful. And he said, I'd love to see how I could transition what I do here, but I'm just starting to learn to race, love racing cars, love Porsches. Anyway, so I got him. I liked his story. So I thought, I'm in. More than happy to help you out and see what, and I knew he was going to just buy in. He was like, what can I do? And I said, okay, so and he had a simulator. I said, okay, so every time you get on the sim, you never stop the race.
Yeah, okay.
Once you lock in and you're just doing a lap or a race, you finish it. If you come off, you continue on. I said, because it's very easy on the sim to go, oh, I'll wait till I get the perfect start. The first, I'll get the apex perfect, and I'll keep going. But if I'm not, I'll just hit reset and I'll go again.
Yeah,
you know?
I definitely
We all
know
do that, right? I've got one.
I definitely know that. It's like, oh, it's like shit. I'm just going to stop it.
So, and my theory to him was, in a car, race car. So what happens is when you're in the sim and you're putting you put a lot of hours in the sim or laps in the sim, in your mind, you're going off, I don't quite get it right. Oh, I just have a lull and I'll stop. So when you get out on the racetrack, that's there. Whereas I need you to have this, get in, strap in. He's got a great sim. Strap in, lock it in. And if you spin, get the car back on and go. And then focus again. So my job's to channel the mind to have a high level of attention to stay alert for long periods of time.
Yeah.
The only way you can do that is stay invested the whole time when you're in your practice sessions. So whether it's on the tennis court, every ball matters. If I hit the ball out, I want you to chase it and hit it back in. And so the ball's alive all the time. So it keeps your mind alert and staying present. Not if we hit two, we miss one, I go down. Ball comes back, I concentrate again, I drop down for a few. I want you to do this. So then you're present more often, so you can offer yourself more for long periods of time at a high level. So, and it was amazing. So he took it to such the extreme. He's not, he's doing well for himself, and he knows he's not going to be at the front, but he's learning the art of competing as well. And I got him to, and so he's on the track, and the amount of times he's come off and just got the car back on the track.
Yeah.
And in times when he thinks, and he said, all I've ever thought about, get back on the track. He said, I've never, even in my hardest positions, if I've come off and I thought, most people just let the car go, I've tried to work to try and get the car back on. How do I get back on? Straight away, I've dialed into that. And he's been, and we also did things where I got him to tape up, got his team is with Sonics Racing. They do a good job, Sonics. They're really quite professional in the way they go about it. I got him to just put tape all over his data. Stop looking at data. Learn how to feel the car and just drive the car. Forget the data. Forget what the numbers say. Can you feel your left tire, your rear tire? Can you feel it? Can you feel your front tires? Can you feel, do you feel the car? I said, that's performance. Because once you feel the car, you'll trust the car.
Yeah.
And I said, so get all your numbers off. He says, that's scary. I've only dealt with numbers. I said, yeah. Tell them to turn them off. Only have the numbers that matter as far as engine or gear or whatever. The rest are irrelevant. You're not trying to break records. You're trying to learn how to feel yourself as an athlete. And it's like on a tennis court or a football field. You got to feel yourself. You got to feel like you're there. To really get balance of what you can do. If you can't feel it, well, it's like a car, right?
Yeah.
You got to feel it, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think when you talk about coaching and things that you've done, is there a particular athlete that comes to mind that you've, I wouldn't say enjoyed working with, but is there a particular athlete that comes to mind about being successful, or that you could just see there's something about them, good or bad? They might have made it or they might not have.
All the four main guys that I've worked with, I sent on the guys tour. I've helped a lot of females and in other sports as well. And but some of the some of the tennis guys have been interesting. So Frenchman Gael Monfils, who's probably the best tennis athlete.
He's got that. He's got a bit of a fro. Yeah,
he's a freak.
Yeah,
YouTube him and have a look at his highlights. He's freaky. It was interesting when we first started. I just finished with Leighton Hewitt coaching after nearly 7 years, and I was with my mate Chris Dittmar, and we were having coffee that morning, and he said, "Oh, what are you going to do?" And I said, "Oh, I'm just going to sort of sit off for I was a couple of months in it. He said, "Look, I'm just going to sit off for a little bit. My daughter was just born, so I'm going to enjoy that." And he said, "Okay." He said, "Oh, but have you got players?" He said, "Yeah, I've got some players and agents ringing, but I'm just going to sit off for another month or so." Anyway, that night, the phone rings. And the phone says, "Hello, Roger. This is Gael Monfils." And I said, "Oh, fuck off, Ditz." And I hung up.
So it was that night.
Yeah, that night, literally, and that's not. I'm not telling a lie. Absolutely, it couldn't. That's why I said, "I just fuck off, dudes." Anyway, so I rang again. So 3 times I did it, and then he text messaged me. He goes, "No, look at the number. This is Gail. Blah 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 blah." And so I rang him back, and he asked me to work with him. No other international was coached the French outside the French, so they're a very tight group. And I said, "Look, I'm flattered. Thanks for the call. Do you really want my stuff though? Because I've seen you, Gail. You're 41 in the world. You're great person, great athlete. Do you want my stuff? It's a bit intense, because it's."
So did he come across as casual because of the way he plays?
No, well, I've watched him. I had a rap sheet on all the players and the best players and all the players in the world. I had my own police report on them, on all detail, like very detailed, talking about detail. How they operate, a little bit different. I don't just look at the data. I go and watch them, look at how they operate under extreme conditions, weather, how they operate, all the point end, all the stress points. I love to pick people apart under duress, because that's when we see the true version of people under duress.
What they fall back to.
Yeah, how do they operate? Are they calm? Are they not? Can they problem solve? Do they shit themselves? Like what happens under duress? So it's like looking for the weakness. So he said, yeah, I want to ring you because I need someone to push me harder and all these sort of things. Anyway, so I gave him some non-negotiables. I said, these are all non-negotiables. There's not even dialogue about them. They're just, this is what it is. I said, if you want to, if you're saying you want to move into the top 10 players in the world, that's different. That's a different ticket. And so here it is. Anyway, so I said, have a think about it. He said, no, I'm in. So a couple of weeks later, we agreed on some terms, and I asked him, it was interesting. So I'll ask everybody, why do you do it? And because it's interesting, right? The why is interesting. Yeah. So it's not just because. So Leighton, why did he do it? Loved the competition.
Yeah.
Didn't matter about
That's
money.
what it come across of.
Just loved competition.
Yeah.
They put me out there. Let's fight. Let's play a game. And then the bigger the moment, the calmer he was.
Yeah.
Loved it. That was his. He loved to compete. He made really good choices under duress. Gail was interesting. I said, do you love it? He said, yeah, I like tennis. He was always good young, really good young. Everyone, wow, in France, they love them. He said, I want to support my family.
Wow. So for money.
I said, bingo.
Yeah, there it is.
So at the moment you're 41 in the world. I said, are you going to support your family? Yeah, you're going to make a bit of money, but is it going to let all of them be supported and you to retire and you have, for the rest of your life and just enjoy life? No. Top 10 will. And he said, that's why. I said, so this is why these are non-negotiable. So I can turn your business model into something different, but you got to lock in. And so that's why he locked in. Because I said to him that I would give him family security for life. But he has to, there's only one road he can go down, and that's this. And I said to him, when you don't want to do it anymore, just let me know. I've always, John Paul said, the first day that I've signed a deal, I've said, I'm happy to walk tomorrow.
Yeah.
Let me know when you're not interested in this component, the work component of it, and actually we're going to go and hunt a better day. Just let me know, I'm out. So I didn't want to ever ride the horse and then someone looking in and going, oh, he's not doing much.
Yeah,
like he's just on the ride. It's not the way my philosophy, that was never going to be my coaching mind or world. And I never wanted to be seen for anyone else except that got value out of an athlete or a person, that went to work and got value out of people.
So who did you have? Did you have a friendship with any of these guys? Or?
Love it, yeah. I mean, Leighton and I were extremely tight.
Yeah. Was it hard? Like I would have thought that would be quite hard.
Well, you have to, because you've got to be. You're there actually as you're an adult. They're young, and you're there as a mentor, friend. You're there. Wake up, we have breakfast. We travel 30, 35 weeks together. So it's
You'd
tight.
want to like them.
Yeah, you got to have. So your breakfast, you'll have lunch. You're gonna have. Tournament times, you have dinner. They're very set in ways. It's like anything. Everyone's very habitual about if they're winning. I better poo in this dunny, I better shower in there, and I better have dinner at this restaurant. And that's what it better look like. And we do it at that time. So, it happens every
Does any particular athlete have something that's this is what we have to do no matter what? Or
Well, I think a lot of them do like that. They'll pick their favourite places.
Yeah.
And if they, before a match, say the Australian Open, it'd be, I had one athlete that liked going to Coco's every time before the match. But, match night, that's where he goes, and we get the same place, and, it's all getting served up and on the hot plate. And, but then after that match, there's a day off. That next night, we'll go somewhere else. That's different, but then we're back in. I'll just book that same place for that night, the next match. So it's just it allows them routine, security in themselves. I feel good.
It's back to what you said earlier.
Yeah.
It's about they got to be feeling at their best.
Feel good. When we feel good, we do things. When we feel good, there's no boundaries. So he was really quite unique in that sense, and he went, inside 7 months, he was he was in the top 10 players in the world. Did the same thing with a Bulgarian kid, same sort of thing. I put a personal performance model underneath them. Every 3 months we reassess that. They do it. It's a personal platform that I've developed for people, and it keeps them it keeps you as an individual in a really healthy space yourself. So it's actually more about you looking at you and highlighting some of the key things that are really important to you and how they are actually currently being activated.
Yeah.
So it keeps you, what we don't do in life is when we wake up in the morning when we're feeling great, get in the car, we drive off. You drive off down my road, just flying in your bloody in your Lexus, and it's sounding like a bloody turbo boosting plane coming out. And my windows break because they're not double glazed like his. They're and he's got a smile on his face. Yeah, and he just revs it because he knows that people are hearing it, even though they're hearing it regardless.
I know you like it, though.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. I want a bit more of it. We never actually put the brakes on and go, okay, if I was to assess why I'm so happy,
Yeah.
we never do that. At this point, why is it? So we actually never stop and assess. We only assess when
it's
shit hit
bad.
the fans and when we're bad. So we never assess when things are going well. We never go, why are we feeling so good? Generally, it would be because the key things that are in your heart and head that mean a lot to you, that are your DNA, they're probably operating at a really good capacity.
Yeah.
Might be relationship, might be business, might be your extra activities that you like, might be family.
Yeah.
They're probably in a really good place, right? So we actually wake up and everything's good. And I can deal, and challenges that are coming towards you, you don't even see them as challenges because you can attack them because you feel good.
That's how your mind is.
Yeah.
100%.
So when give you another example. So now I'm in so you can activate and everything that you walk through the door here, yeah, I can deal with that. I can deal with that. People coming at you, you can deal with everything. When it's not going so well, that's when we start to, that's when we can't deal with a lot of stuff because a lot of people don't have the capacity to deal with stuff. And if you looked at why things aren't going so well, you'd probably look at the key things that are important to you. They're probably not working at where they should be. They're probably shouldn't be. They're not in the right spot. So my models, which I design myself, is all about, it's a 75% rule that 75% of you've got to have those numbers, your world operating at 75% and above in that space. So we can't be at 100%.
Yeah.
So there's got to be some fat.
Yeah.
But generally, if I can get my key pillars that are really important in my life to be operating at a good level, then I'm going to feel good about life. And then if they're not, let's deal with them. So it actually allows you to identify them, and if they're not at the time, deal with them. So
what's the biggest thing that happens?
Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100% that makes sense because that's not saying you have to be 100% all the time.
No,
Because
we're never going to be.
Yeah, and I think there's an expectation for people to be on the whole time. And I think that's also a danger in elite athletes. And, if you use footballers as an example, there's probably a high percentage of them that have a lot of idle time,
Dangerous.
Like
Quiet time is dangerous time.
Yeah, like an idle mind is a devil's workshop. And I think for me, I'm consistently busy, but you see with some of these professional athletes, which mustn't have the best managers around them, they go into a drunk binge or something like that, where they're, these West Coast players are out at a fucking nightclub. Like, who, as a professional athlete, you can't do well, but you never see the soccer players in the UK get in trouble. So they must have good managers, right? They must party in their rooms or do something.
Yeah, they do something
smart,
different,
right?
yeah.
But when you see it, you think when you go, you're so high at the top level, you can't peak at that all the time. So you could get knocked down round 1, round 4, whatever. But coming off is, I think, a dangerous place to deal in. And do you see that of any of the athletes that where you have to go, oh, fuck, how do I deal with this? I haven't been in this situation before. So how do you give that sort of advice?
Yeah, it's interesting. Sport's the most emotional roller coaster
100%.
of all time. It is a minefield.
Yeah.
The reality is we lose a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
It's
You lose.
true.
You come second.
Yeah.
You know, not everyone wins. So when I say lose, I actually don't like the word use. I don't think you ever lose, but I just think you get great data. You might not be the first person, but if your output's really top end, where like I was talking about at the start, every time you're out there, you're present, you get great data, and so therefore that's a result.
Yeah.
Because from that data we can actually work out what we might need to add to be a little better, and that might transition to whether I finish first or second or third or whatever it is. So, but that's my coach's mind putting that to work, and you've got to be a strong athlete to agree with that method.
Yeah.
The reality is in tennis, for example, you could lose 5 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
Work my ass off, practice, get to the round 1 on Monday, lose. Feel down, be disappointed, but I might play a great match, or I might play Roger Federer, or I might play Serena Williams, or whoever. I might play someone great.
Yeah.
Played really well. I can be happy a few days, but then I can go and play the next week, work my ass off, get there, lose. Then I could do the same, lose. Imagine it.
Yeah.
Starting to feel good again, and I lose. And so you sit there, and then it's the blame game, and you're sitting in your own time. And I can't do this anymore. And I can't play anymore. I don't feel good anymore. Oh, I'm not having a good relationship with my coach. This is not working out, and I'm hating life. And can you see it?
Yeah, I 100%.
A mental. So
social media.
Yeah, social media, all the stuff that now because of that. And so the hardest part is how do you keep the athlete through the journey, knowing that in this journey of whatever the calendar year is of whatever, you're going to experience all these things. It's part of the toolkit.
Yeah.
You're going to experience the high spots. You're going to experience stuff where we just sit in sort of the normal green zone, and there'll be times when it doesn't quite work out, but you can't be too judgmental in those times. You've got, as long as you've actually offered yourself to the contest, the only time you can judge is if you haven't actually prepared for that.
And I 100%. It's funny you talk about. I think for me, like I do some speaking gigs at the moment, and you're on a high.
Yeah.
Like you deliver it as you hoped it would in a practice, and it's a far high. It's a lasting high, higher than any drug that you can have, and it's an amazing feeling. And I did a talk for the Drake conference, and it went really well. And
I can't wait to talk there next year.
Well, you never know. But my prep was really good.
Yep.
In my mind, I was ready. And then when I delivered it, I was like, bang. And I was like, you're exactly right. But I have done things where I'm not quite as prepared, and only myself to blame.
Yeah, and it feels a little different, doesn't it?
It does feel different. So not to the elite level that we're talking, but anyone can feel this.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I'm doing a talk on Friday to rural doctors.
Yep.
About 150 rural doctors that are coming in, and it's going to be about performance, dealing with people. You know, the importance of their messaging. And how valuable their messaging is, a doctor in a rural community, like the power they have to influence. So I'm going to talk about those things, where they just see their job as their job. But you know, I'll prepare for that, and I'm not a full writer, but I will prepare my mind what I need it to look like. I'll write it down in bracket form, and then I'll write a key word near it, and I'll look it through that, and I'll take those little cards. I do it old school. I like to have a card there. And I'll put them on a couple of cards, 2 or 3 cards, but I would have rehearsed it in my head. Yeah. But realistically, and I know the way I want to format it, but I love ad-libbing. So I could just sit there and ad-lib for 2 hours. Yeah. And I can bring up things and move it into directions. And then I'll put it in my pocket, and I'll get up there, and I'll leave it in my pocket. and I'll decide. I'll look at the room and I'll feel the room and I'll decide how I'm going to start. I did a big talk in the US to 1,200. It was about 1,200 people in psychology, and they were in sport. And I said my opening. I was the keynote. My opening was, I don't believe in anything that you guys do.
Oh, God, they would have all been like, who the fuck's this guy?
And I've gone, oh. Anyway, so then I rewound of what that meant, because I talked about how intense some of them operate without actually never being in the space and understanding what it feels like to be in the space. It's okay to be well read and go to uni, and I'm like a straight A student, but I've read it all. But you need to be there. Yeah. Like I said to my daughter the other day, I said, could you have done that on the field, on the football field, against that lady? She said, no, you're not there. You don't know how I feel, Dad. I said, that's a good point. And it's true, like, you know what I mean? Like, so, and I know because I've been on the football field and I know it, but she said, you don't know how I feel. So it's really important to know how does that person feel? Because you and I can feel completely different in the same scenario. Yeah. Same car, brilliant car. We get in it, we both see something different. Yep. We all see something different. We never see the same vision. Sit on the tennis court, I see Roger Federer up there, I see Roger, you see Roger, but we might see different things about how we're going to go about it because we're the way we're made up.
What do you think Kyrgios sees?
I'm not sure. What do you think he sees?
He obviously can play.
Yes.
He does have
talk
talent.
About weapons.
He's got weapons,
everywhere.
right?
Everywhere.
And I like watching him. I think, I remember the days of John McEnroe, and McEnroe was good value.
Yeah. There's a big difference, right? McEnroe was the number one player in the world.
Oh, okay.
In singles and doubles at the same time.
See, does that happen anymore? No.
No, but he was the number one player in the world, and he'd get pissed off, right?
And then I didn't realise he was number one. There you go.
Yeah.
So there you go. So
he was
can you get away with it when
superstar.
you're number one?
I think so.
Yeah.
But the fact that he could get away with it and play at that level, whereas Nick's hasn't been in the top 10. So he's still trying to find out. McEnroe loved to compete. You and me, let's fight. Yeah. Let's go for it. Yeah. Jimmy Connors, all those guys, just let me go for the fight. But he was unbelievable. Whereas Nick's quite, from a different era, and being very individual. McEnroe had coaches. Nick doesn't have a coach.
Doesn't he?
No. So it's his timeline. Everything's his timeline.
So you're telling me he doesn't have someone to? Would any players in that top only 500 not have a coach or top 100?
Guys who are outside the top 150 don't make it. They can't make a living. So by the way,
okay.
So they can't. Yeah, they'll just break even.
It's amazing. So, hey, you're one of the 150 best in the world, and you can't make a living from it.
So that's an issue we have in our sport. We're trying to push money down through the system more and more. But that's the issue we have in our sport. In golf, unfortunately, the 400th golfer in the world will make $500,000 this year. Maybe more. So,
okay. So
there's different leagues. Whereas in tennis, there's just one league, one method to play world professional tennis. Whereas golf, there's a USPGA tour,
there's different
the European
circuits.
tour, there's the Australasian tour. So different circuits. Nick's interesting. Look, he wants to do it the way he wants to do it.
I reckon he sees speakers and people in a crowd. That's what I reckon he sees.
Yeah, he just wants to do it his way.
And he loves it.
He doesn't. I would just like Nick to say that I don't really want number one. I don't want to be number one. I'm turning up and playing the way I want to play. Sometimes it's part-time. I'll turn up, and if my ranking gets me into these events, no one should be critical because my ranking gets me in.
So if I go to the US Open, do I get paid just for being there?
Yeah. So he gets paid $100,000, and he's also got he's got Nike that he moves the needle, doesn't he?
Yeah, 100%.
Because he's different. So for Nike to whack him a couple of mil or whatever they are in it, well, that change is falling out of their side pocket. Yeah. They wouldn't even know that's missing. Yeah. But he moves the needle, right? So if he had nothing going on, if he was like Bernard Tomic, for example.
Yeah. So that's the other
who's completely different, who's unfortunately, wasn't educated at school. really controlling situation and doesn't have all the firepower and the wow, well, Bernard's, unfortunately, he's probably going to be without any money, and he'll live life without any money. And what's his earning capacity anywhere? Well, it'll be none. What does he do in life? So
see, that's because they're both young people.
But Nick has got a different skill set. He's got weapons everywhere. Big serve, big forehand, big backhand, can hit a winner from anywhere in the court. He's just got he's got a scary game. And his serve's probably in the best, for mine, probably in the best 3 serves that has ever been around.
Really?
Yeah, because you know how you talk about detail and where you can hit the ball?
Yeah.
You can put a 5-cent piece over on the other side of the court and he can hit it.
Really?
Yeah, his accuracy is incredible around the service box. The amount of times he can just hit lines, and his second serve can be speeds of 200 and 210. He's got a really loose, relaxed arm. Everything's loose with him. So he's got a lot of wow, and he's fun to watch. I
reckon he's fun to watch.
I
love watching.
When he's engaging and playing tennis, really fun to watch. When there's a lot of the other stuff going on, and at times like he'd put his hand up for this. There's stuff that he said to whether to people and whatever. If you're going to talk about respect as a person off the court, make sure you show it when you're in the field of action. Whether it's to umpires, to ball kids.
Yeah.
They're all trying to do their job. Everyone's trying to do their job, just like he is. He doesn't.
So what happened with the doubles of was that
Kokonakis?
Yeah, with Kokonakis.
When there was a bit of a circus going on.
Yeah, what was it? Was that really? They almost had a fight in the changes?
I think it was in the quarterfinals. I think. Yeah, you're right. So there
with the French guys.
There was a New Zealand guy who was arcing up a bit. So they didn't like. What happened was, there was one court where when those guys played, it was a bit of a circus, and it's good energy. It's actually good energy. There's different eyeballs watching the sport. Sometimes you need different eyeballs watching your sport.
100%.
So it's like, how do I move the needle? You're talking about, the brand of Drake's
getting young,
being the Batman, right? Being everywhere. So it's a little bit of that. How do I bring different eyeballs into the brand? So with tennis, Nick, he does that. So it's a different group of people watching tennis because he's a little different. And they had a circus going on there. The umpires couldn't end up controlling it, because how do you control the group? And the players probably got a little razzled, some of them, because they didn't like the way Nick and they were carrying on at the time using the crowd, and it just became a little bit
they
raucous.
were like body pumping.
Yeah, body pumping when, And also jumping around when the guy's about to serve. That part's probably never really been in the game, to be honest. So
it's a lot of the old mentality, and I'll say, I don't know, I'll go as far to say the Wimbledon Brigade would be looking at this, dying.
I do love freckles, by the way.
Yeah, the freckles are good, aren't they? So they would all be dying, but every pet, no different with Drake's. We need a new pet. When we left Foodland, the first thing that we noticed, we started seeing younger people. Foodland has an older demographic.
The first thing you noticed was younger people.
Yeah. Not straight away, but we now can look at and go, we're attracting a younger crowd for sure. Because Foodland's technically at the older end of the scale, and let's face it, we obviously we have our customers there, but we definitely want to we want young parents and, and starting their journey by buying the nappies and the wipes. And because once you form that habit, you can generally stick to it, especially with supermarkets. So with golf recently, now they've had, I think it was where they're throwing all the bottles in for the hole. I can't remember what course it was, but you see that sort of behavior, think, that's pretty cool. And then it fucking happens again, another hole in a one. And I look at it and go, that's good for golf, because golf's pretty fucking boring. And, I'm a member of a course and I don't play, but I think if I've got 4 hours in my life, it's not playing golf, right? I'll maximize that doing something else, and with a young family, and you understand how that works. So for golf to have that moment, and then really at the same time, then this incident happened, which is unseen in tennis. Do you think that all the sports are evolving a little bit? Yeah,
they are. I think you're right, they are. Greg Norman's one of my best mates. Well, I've got 2 best mates. He's my one of them. And he revolutionised golf when he was younger, and he went out there and he was the Great White Shark and all that sort of stuff. I'm not sure if you've seen his little doco that's just on now on ESPN. Worth having a look. 30
The 30.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, have a look. So it's pretty cool.
Are you in it?
No, I'm not in it. He told me, he said, do you think I should do it? And I said, yeah. But really talking about, he was the number one golfer in the world for 10 years.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Went over there and conquered the US. Only won two, well, when I say only won two majors, won two majors, two British Opens, but led the American PGA Tour for so long. And 1 year in all the four majors in the US, he was leading on the last day and didn't win one of them. And so, and one of them was in the Masters, the green jacket, where he was up by a lot leading into the last day. And so they basically took him back to the Masters and he walked through the course and told the story. And it was quite interesting. So just to hear, because I've spoken to him a lot about all those sort of things, but, and he talks to me a lot about, he has done for years, for the last 17 years, about the trends of golf and how he's always trying to, he's one of the biggest golf course designers in the world.
Yeah, like
his business is quite extraordinary. So different arms to it, from all sorts. From his wine, he's got his wine company that sells every drop. The grass on the PGA Tour, a lot of it, the grass is his.
Really?
Yeah. He's got some different. His clothing line is the second biggest selling clothing line to Nike in golf in the US. So quite an interesting business, and there's more. There's hospitality. There's all sorts of stuff that he does, but people want to be attached to his brand in the US.
Yeah.
You'd be staggered having a business meeting with people that are flying in, billionaires, to put proposals to him just to be attached to the brand of Greg Norman.
Yeah,
is off the charts. I've seen some of the most amazing businesses that have been there, and that he's decided to turn down, and he's turned them down. He just wants to work with good people.
Yeah. Have you watched Mark Wahlberg? He's got a doco on, it might be HBO or Binge, but they show how many things get pitched to him because people. I love Mark. I reckon he's entourage. He's cool, dude. And when you see the different, they got the Wahlbergs, they got the family restaurants, and how many things get pitched to him, it's quite fascinating because anyone can give money to someone, but making it successful is another thing.
But it's very fascinating. But to end that, he was one that always wanted to sexy up golf.
Yeah. But well, kind of like what they did back for cricket, went under lights, Kerry Packer. That's changed the sport. In 2020, the old school, like Bob, he's old school. This 2020, fuck it, it's not real cricket, but it's made people that couldn't give a shit about cricket actually watch a game that they can watch for I don't know how long a 2020 game goes, for 2 or 3 hours.
I don't watch a lot of it now,
to
be honest, but I did at the start when it was pumping, just to see, I watched the last 5 overs when they're smashing away. But there's one thing with all that. You've got to keep the authenticity of the sport still alive.
Yeah.
And the history of. So, for example, like Wimbledon, people have said for a lot of years, why can't you just wear normal clothes at Wimbledon? No, Wimbledon's got white.
Yeah.
There's something cool about Wimbledon and the white.
Well, that's its thing now, right? And New York now, its thing is the crowd's a bit boisterous. New
York's a rock concert. It's Manhattan.
Yeah.
Come into New York, you know what you're going to get. 24,000 stadium. It's going to be, it goes off. You can't get silence there. Been there enough. A Friday night tennis match or a Saturday night tennis match in New York in the middle weekend of the US Open is one of the coolest venues to be in, and if you've got a player that's in it, which I've had a lot of times, it is one of the great rock concerts.
Yeah,
because they're a light.
Yeah,
the whole way through they're just lit up, and then you've got and then at Wimbledon you've got the purity of the aura of Wimbledon when you walk through the gates, and it sends it tingles up your spine because this is like the Mecca. And it's the green grass is so good. The white lines, when you're walking on, even if a coach for your player practicing on the courts, you have to be in full white. You can't even have an underlay which is black. They'll put
they're very strict
to respect that. But then to look at how they've developed the stadium and the site and kept it very modern and up to with the latest technology, but only still had the limited sponsorship which you very see, Rolex only, that sort of stuff. Slazenger, it's so pure that it's so cool. It's almost retro.
Yeah.
So we love the retro car, right? We love the old school car. This is like keeping it retro.
Yeah, okay.
keeping it
So,
old
so
school.
Wimbledon's true that is only ever used for Wimbledon. That's correct.
The centre court,
So,
only.
So only. So
it.
so
A couple of members get on it for about a week leading in or something. They coming up now soon. You'll be able to. They'll let just to step on just to wear the grass a little bit, and then some of the other courts they do, but yeah, and it's the easiest way to become a member at Wimbledon at the All England Tennis Club is to win the title. So to put your name down to become a member, is virtually impossible.
Impossible.
Yeah. So the easiest way is to actually win it.
It isn't. Someone was talking about the rights and all that. It's still, that's what keeps that whole thing going.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and I think I like the way you.
And so you take that one, John Paul, and then you take the Australian Open, which is just the all rounder. So there's noise, there's respect, there's understanding about. They love tennis. We love the sporting landscape. We love sports in Australia. So we just have that type of crowd that supports everybody, gets on their locals, but supports everybody. You go to Paris at Roland Garros, and it's a different type of theatre because the French have got they got the dress. There's a bit of dress sense. That last weekend, the last 4 or 5 days,
it's like a fashion.
It's a fashion show.
Fashion show,
and I love it. I mean, I'm an ambassador I've been for 13 years with Lacoste, so I'm a brand ambassador for them.
Whoa. Hey, what's that thing I was looking? What's the Meta Gala?
The Met Gala.
Met Gala. Like, holy shit. I didn't realise, this is all new to me, but when I saw Lewis Hamilton rock up dressed as like a kite, I was thinking, what?
I know.
So you pay to go to that? Even the celebrities are paying $200,000.
It's off the charts, isn't it?
That just goes to show when you've got so much money, it doesn't fucking matter. So I like how you back your stuff because I've driven past your place and you're usually in some form of Ford.
Yeah.
And you've got the plate on it as well. It's shown off. So every single person that drives
Well, I have
past.
no option as well. So they give me. I've got a Ford Everest at the moment, and it's got Jarvis 1 on it. So.
I've seen you've got a Mustang hiding away as well. So,
Yeah.
so you push whatever brand you get behind. I think it's credible. And sometimes I see in the morning you're on the news, and there you are out the front of your house.
Yeah.
Set up. They come to you. Fuck. I need to.
But
work on
I think it's important. The one thing I've worked on, and I learnt this very quickly from Greg when I first met him, and I asked to meet him. That's how our relationship started. I actually asked to meet him when I started coaching Leighton, and I wanted to get a bit of advice about how he dealt with media and his sponsors. So we met up at Coolum, and anyway, we shared a beer and became bloody best mates.
Yeah.
And privately, I've only ever got one thing signed from him in my whole time as friends. I said I'll never get anything signed because that's not our friendship. And
Who was that from?
Greg Norman.
Yeah.
And I was like I used to wake up and watch him in awe of this guy, and so all of a sudden we're having beers and I could get, could you sign this.
Yeah.
I was never like that. And he said to me, I said, what's your biggest secret? How did you make it all work? And he said, from day one, for me, it's all been about relationships.
Yeah.
He said, I went in and I did my first contract. I did my first sponsorship. I sat with the owner of the business who wanted to sponsor Greg Norman, not my agent.
Yeah.
It was about me and them and our relationship and how could I give them the best value through our relationship. And he said, that's why I've done that from day one. And then eventually the agent come in and do the nuts and bolts, the back end of it. But it was more, it's always been, he said, my whole business success in theory has been relationship building. So all these people in his company, his CEO's been there for 25 years.
Yeah.
His pilots, when he had his plane, had been with him for 23 and 21 years. And whenever I spoke to them all and all these people that were in his company that had been there for long periods of time, I said, why are you, what's the secret? He said, why are you still here for so many, long time? He said, where else would you want to work? And Greg supports their families and he supports his caddy, he would always make sure his family was well supported, through education, through healthcare, through all those sort of things, because he understood that the caddy was going to be away from the family for a long time. Yeah. So I need to invest in your family. So a really cool tool, isn't it? Don't you think? So it's a massive, so he just built that And that was the one thing that stuck with me from day one. So when my opportunity was to be in front of people like Lacoste, or it was all about what could I do.
Yeah.
And then the relationship just rolls over, and there's no, if they're looking at sort of eliminating people at certain times, they're going to go, oh, he gave nothing.
I think for us, we just had our conference, and it was building business relationships. And I say it all the time, but so Dad says it all the time, is that people do business with people they like.
Yes.
And there's no doubt that forming that relationship helps. And what you're saying is exactly it. But a lot of when businesses get bigger and bigger and bigger, and the person's not there, like Drake's at the moment is the only supermarket chain that has Drake's, like has people. Like Roger Drake's still alive, and I'm alive. But Coles, Woolies, Audi, the brothers are I think they're both dead. But there's no one there selling that story, and I think it's a big point that
storytelling's massive.
I
think it's
all about storytelling.
Well, I think it's more engaging now than ever before because of everything's so fast, and people want to grab onto something that's real again. All this stuff is like there's a lot of stuff that's just bouncing around. It's all fast and everything's happening, and it's not real enough, I think. And the reality is, we like interaction. Humans like interaction. Some don't. They'll sit behind their computers and whatever, but. Generally they like interaction. They like a good feel thing. They like to feel something. We're emotional. We've got emotions. So it's about how do you touch those points. So I've been massive on that since my start. It's about what can I give, what can I provide, how can I offer my value, and so I've been fortunate with those guys, with Jarvis and with Lacoste. I went to them with ways that I could help.
Yeah.
Like. They sponsor the French Open. They're major key sponsor of the French Open. They're key sponsor of a few other events. And I went to them and said, hey, why don't you bring, when you bring in your corporates, why don't I, if I've got my availability, I'll come up to the facility. I'll give them a 10-minute snapshot of my coach's mind of what they're going to go and watch. I'll put them in my seat. And so they're about to go watch the Australian Open on centre court, that night session. I'll tell them this is what to look out for. Not what they're seeing, not what picture they're going to see, but this is what I'm looking for. Have a look at this guy do this and this, and watch at this part of the match what he'll try and do here, or she'll try and do this. Look out for these things, and then I'll talk about your brand, and I'll talk about what's the value of your brand. I'll push that in there as well, but I'll generally give them something they'll walk away with and go, well, that was cool.
That's cool.
And they didn't ask me for that. I brought that to them, and they just saw the value in that. So it builds a relationship, right? You're prepared to give. Then a lot of people will get a deal with someone, and it's all about thanks for the deal and see you later.
Yep. That's take. It's not win-win. So Ash Barty, I reckon she came from nowhere. Call me someone that's not watching tennis too often, but all of a sudden, fuck, she's number one, quit. So rumour has it she's going to play golf, maybe. What do you think, how many people get to choose to quit when they're on top? Most people get a bit etchy and come back. Michael Schumacher came back. Sebastian Vettel come back.
It's a hard thing. It's a hard thing in the sense that it's whether you're comfortable with what you've got's enough, and also the drug of the competition, because the drug keeps you there. The big moments, especially when you're at the very pointy end. Gee, how am I going to miss out? I've got Wimbledon's up, or the Monaco Grand Prix. God, I'm not going to be able to do that. The Olympics is coming. How do I get out? Usain Bolt, how does he get out? Like, does he get a run again? Maybe he knew he just wanted to keep the clean record.
Yeah, let's face it. I think he loved partying as well.
So I think the hardest thing is to know that I've had enough, because you're on the merry-go-round, and you get on, and that's what year and year looks like. And
it's always someone.
Are you satisfied with your year? No, I can still win another major. I'm going to hunt down the other major. For Ash, this was her second calling. She wanted to win, had a dream of winning Wimbledon. Won.
Yeah.
A dream, she bookended it with the Australian Open. She won the French Open as well. Number one in the world for a couple of years. And she loves sport in general. She loves family. You're away from family for 30 weeks of the year. And it's a very selfish sport is very, at the point in, is very selfish. You've got to be selfish. Your team's got to be selfish for you and with you, because it's all about the athlete.
People don't see that.
Yeah, it's about the athlete. Everyone's going to be invested for the athlete, and so and they're happy to, once you decide you're going to do that, like you are as a coach. That's what your job is, and that's the journey, and you get to enjoy. As I said, I would never have been. I had to stop playing tennis when I was 21. So at 20, I had to finish playing because of my back. But I would never have been on the centre courts and played in the big matches and finals as a tennis player like I was able to do as a coach. So my tennis experience, even though it wasn't me playing, God, it was amazing because I was able to coach through it. So, and maybe I became the coach I was because I felt like there was unfinished business with me. And so,
So is that like a parent?
Well, a little bit of the sense that, don't waste your opportunities. I would have loved the opportunities. I didn't get to have them because of my back and my disc issues. So I actually had to legitimately step aside. Didn't want to. So I was more. That's why I guess I was
an
more.
Excuse.
No, it was a bit of, let's call it an excuse. But
Yeah.
No, I wish I had the opportunities, but some people might say that. My uncle said that. My uncle said I was soft. 3 of them said I was soft. So anyway, don't worry, I got my money back. But I wish I could have played. I kept trying year after year, but I just broke down. But Ash is interesting because I think she's just achieved what she needed to achieve. She's comfortable and she loves sport in general, just all sorts of sports. So she just wants to enjoy the journey of life, because you can get to 35, 30. She could play till she's 35, still earn millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah.
But does it mean she's won any more Grand Slams? Maybe not. Does it mean she's still on the circuit merry-go-round doing the selfish 30 weeks?
Well, it would. It probably would be if. Does she? She doesn't have kids.
No,
She's
so
just built this.
So if you want to have a family, and do you do it at 35 or 30, or do you do it? So she might want to start a family. She's got a partner who's a golfer. Does she want him to enjoy his journey because he's been a big supporter of hers? So there's a whole lot of balls
so
in the air.
many things.
And so depending, every circumstance is different. Some people have retired too late. Right, what's happening now in our sport is people are staying longer. The money's there.
Yeah.
And so the older you are, the stronger your body is, the more sustainable you are, because it's so physical. The sport is so demanding that the older, stronger bodies are more durable. And the young bodies coming up, they're doing this with their tennis cycle, whereas the older guys are actually are being a lot more consistent because their bodies are more geared up for it. So the sport, I think everything in life's become a little bit more physical in sport. Every sport's become... there's another physical.
There's more going on. Like you're being filmed at practice, and then you're reviewing the practice session plus everything. There's apps out there you can sit in fucking slow motion yourself and watch how bad you really are, comparing yourself against a professional.
Well, you do it live. You can do it live too at the time.
So yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting to see how she's just gone.
She's been brilliant though. What a great role modelling, great person, so natural. It all goes back. Everything goes back to what your home base looked like.
Yeah.
It all falls. I mean, some of it doesn't. Some of it will be people that have had a really rough home.
Does.
But the majority goes back to the messaging and role modelling you were in front of as a young person. And obviously there are a lot of great people that have got some great stuff going on that have had really tough upbringings.
Yeah.
But generally, you look at someone like Ash, her parents, you don't see them. They're quiet. They're just really quiet people. They're great people. It's all about everybody. She's always invested with everybody.
They're not on the sideline. Hit the ball fucking harder.
Roger Federer's the same. Nadal, the same. Rafa Nadal, his coaching team has only grown. It hasn't. Sorry, with a doctor, physio, whatever. His group, he hasn't sacked one person in his group ever. They're just the same group.
Yeah.
So it's all about family, and it's all about having people that are just there that he wants to be around, and they want to be around, and they just stay there. So it's pretty cool. There's a reason, successful teams generally and successful people generally they gather people around them and they either add to them, but they're people that they want there for the long journey. They don't want to be dipping in and out, because that creates the insecurities and, so it's just long journey.
It's the same, surrounding your people, surrounding yourself with the people you want to become.
Yeah. And that's why I had to leave Beaumont, because you were there, and I need to get out. I need to get so far away that I couldn't hear that bloody car flying down the road.
Ah, fuck, that's actually pretty funny. But do you believe in that sort of theory that you are the top 5 people, or the people you hang around with is who you become?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I very much do. I mean, you even take your kids. You'll see your kids fluctuate through their journey.
Yeah.
And it'll be around their friend groups.
Yeah.
You know, so that's your current friend group.
Yeah.
Why are you acting like a dick?
Yeah.
You know, well, your friend group, you're all dicks.
Yeah.
You know, so that's the language that you learn. You know, that's the language that's the mentality. That's the messaging you're getting around. They're the influences in your life. So we're all, life is about influence. You know, it's an influencer world. So it has been all since day dot.
It has been, but now it's more.
But when you look at it in those sort of a bit, you drill down a bit deeper. It is like, so the friends that you're with, that's how you end up acting. You know, it happens in the schoolyard, it happens outside the schoolyard, it happens at work, happens at socially. It's probably why I have a limit of people. Or, you know, I've been a bit of I'm a pretty quiet person around Adelaide. I don't think you have
I have lots of people I know, but very few friends.
Yeah.
I look at my old man. He's lots of people he knows, but very few friends. Yeah. And I don't.
Are you a believer of that?
Yeah, but I think I can form relationships really well, but I got plenty of people I know, but not many, because now I've got young family. Like, you can only do so much.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, normally in a week I'd have multiple dinners out or something, and in the end I was like, fuck, I'm wearing myself out.
Yeah.
By just doing, and it's not like you're going getting blind or you're out. You wake up at whatever in the morning. You're like, I can only train in the morning if I do some run through the hills or mountain. But if I don't do that in the morning, I can't do it. Yeah. Like, I always make excuses like, oh, fuck, I'm too busy. Oh, I can't leave now. Or, you know, I go to sneak out of the office and Bob goes, oh, JP coming in. Then 2 hours later, you fucking get out.
Yeah.
Like, so in the morning, I can control my time.
Yes.
And that's why I work out in the morning. It's the only time I do. I don't do it every day, but I do when I feel mentally strong to do it, but in the afternoon I don't. So for me, that's what works for me. Someone else tells me they train when at 9 o'clock, they eat dinner, put the kids to bed, they put the kids to sleep, eat dinner, and I'm like, fuck, like, oh, each their own. So you just need to know how you perform. But I do believe the people you surround yourself with is who you want to become. Yeah. I honestly believe that. And with myself, I'm lucky enough that I get some overflow from some of Dad's influential people that I think, oh yeah, I like what they do. Do I like everything my dad does? No, I don't. But I pick and choose and take the best of everyone. And that to me is who I want to surround myself with. And I definitely believe in that. 100%.
No, I'm a big one with that.
So if we were, we've talked about tennis. What do you actually do with yourself now? Like I know you've got a sports foundation.
Yeah.
The Roger Rasheed Sports Foundation, which you started in 2010.
Yeah, just trickled in 2010. It was so the foundation's interesting. It started then, but it's really sort of come about. And then about 2012, I solidified what it was its purpose. So I'm always a big believer of, you know, you've been lucky enough to get opportunity I see sport as a great medicine for young kids.
Yeah.
For me, it gave me a pathway, gave me some routine, gave me some people in front of, like-minded people. It gave me a calendar as well. So, you know, as a young kid. So in extreme communities, young kids don't actually get any opportunity.
Yeah.
They don't get access to a ball. They don't have a bike. They don't, you know, extreme. I'm not talking about disadvantaged communities. I mean extreme. So there's a big difference.
Yep.
Disadvantaged have opportunities. They can do things. Extreme, they wake up and by the time they get to about 5 or 6, they work out there's a bit of a ceiling. It's not blue sky.
Yeah.
It's a ceiling. And they're fending for themselves. They learn very quickly to become people who actually fend for themselves. And I think that's a travesty. And we have, you know, 85% of kids in extreme communities never touch sport. In Australia, which is staggering. Wow. And it's not about sport. It's just, I just see it as the medicine to, you know, where kids, you know, you put a ball out there, whether they're sporty or not, and they're young, they'll run around, they'll have a laugh, you know, there's a bit of blue sky. They're free spirited. All the endorphins are working. So from a health component, it's very healthy for them to be out there interacting, they're engaging with you, you know, like, and so to actually be able to have that is really important. Otherwise, if they don't get it, what are they doing? And there's poor nutrition. There's survival. They're in environments where at night time it's their scariest nighttime period because they've got parents who are probably, it's all cycle. Third and fourth generation unemployment. Parents are surviving life. They have kids. They were the kids trying to survive life. It keeps going. So my theory was I need to work in that space because that's where you can make the biggest impact, because you're at the basement level. Everything else is upside. And to put sport there and to offer these kids, you're really being the Pied Piper. You're actually putting sport somewhere in an environment. So we're sort of just, what we're doing is creating a facility with council, open space. So it's just grabbing some land, putting a park out there, activating it with sport. So building what we need to do around there and activating it with sport, and then putting the programs in there. So 3 to 5 times a week, kids can come. They've got the same coaches. I'm building a trust umbrella in a community where there's no trust. So in extreme community, there's no trust. You and I live next to each other. We don't trust each other. So no, I mean, like in an extreme community, that would be the case, right? So we actually wouldn't, if we were living in that, we just wouldn't. We barely would talk. Probably. So it's building a trust umbrella. So we get the kids in. They draw and draw pictures of what they want to see in the park. So it's all about investing in them. It's your space. You're doing it. What do you want to see? Parents, we invite them. Parents, we get them to have a lot of open days about, we're going to do this. What do you want to see? This is for your community. And then I do a joint venture with the council, and they give me the land. We develop it. We put the coaching in, and 3 to 5 times a week, kids get free coaching with all the equipment's there, everything's there, from skating to football to netball to basketball to self-defense. Everything's going on, and they do it for free. And they have the same people there, so they can trust. They start to build trust. They start to build relationships, and before you know it, kids are just turning up from everywhere. And so we have a space down south, which is just, it costs $3.5 million. We got money from the state government and local as well to partner up. Because it's just me and my board of 5 people. So there's 6 of us. So we don't have a money tree. So we're realistically we look for people that want to engage in these areas and these communities with children, and actually with this platform. So it's not about sport. We're using the medicine of sport, but in that site there at the moment, we have sport going there 5 days a week, and you can go down there. It's South Australia's biggest skate park now. But it's also got 4 tennis courts, a junior oval, basketball rings to play 3-on-3, walk-in events, nature play, barbecues, etc. And that place is fully activated, fully lit up at night.
That's awesome.
And it's,
whereabouts is that?
This is down at. I asked you if you had a site down there.
Yeah, we've got plenty.
We're at Christie's Downs.
Yeah, okay, not quite in Christie's Downs.
Yeah, so not quite down there because we're trying to. We also want to. We're now got a feeding component where we actually want to feed the kids after school, because they actually don't get fed.
That's the crazy part, that I was forced to eat before school, but a lot of kids don't even get an option. And I've done a talk at Mark Oliphant, that's out north, and hearing the teachers say, like, should hear some of the drop-offs when the kids, like, it's a fucking yelling match. Kids are lucky to actually be here. And I was like, shit, it makes you realise how fucking lucky you've
Once you go in the space, you go, oh.
Yeah, and that's I had this kid, I probably shouldn't. So anyway.
But anyway, so that's what the foundation does. So
that's
all. That's 100% dollar goes in, 100% dollar goes out. So we have no overheads. So we don't have an office. It's just me and my board. I don't get a cent. No one gets a cent. We actually obviously we have to have, we need an accountant. So we have a small cost of something, but very little so it basically your money comes in and it goes straight to the projects.
Well,
which is really cool. I love that about it. I'll never change it because I could have easily whacked a fee on.
Yeah.
But that's just not my DNA. So outside of that, I stopped coaching tennis globally because I said when my daughter got to around 10 and a half, 11, I wanted to make sure I was here for her journey all the time. So pretty hard when you're at the top of the world sport to actually decide to put a line through that job.
Yeah.
And the fee and all those sort of things attached to it, and go to zero. Like, not many people would just go to zero like that. But it was more for me. It was really important. That's my upbringing, family, and actually making sure I went to. My dad didn't see my sporting journey. I didn't. I didn't have anything against that, but I didn't want to do. I didn't want if I could. He had no opportunities to not do that, whereas I had an opportunity to make sure I could see my daughter's journey. Whereas my dad didn't get to see it.
Yeah.
He might have seen me play a dozen times, and so I decided to do that. And just offer my skill set. Now, I was already helping people outside of my sport, tennis, whether it's the coaches, whether it's organisations, whether it's people just with their own personal performance or their team. So now I'm just really moving into that area probably a little bit more than I used to, because I used to do it, quietly. Now I'll probably do a little bit more where I just want to work with, I love working with people.
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing. It's
Yeah.
just a sport.
Yeah.
Like your business is sport. Here's a sport. Like, here's the people. Let's go.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, we've been lucky enough. We've had Aaron from Youth Opportunities in here, and we were speaking with the kids, and they are allowed one thing for that's what they provide, and like most of the kids want a laptop, like to help them to get through school, and it's like wow, something just like that. Some of the kids wanted driving lessons, and it's crazy to think, and it's great that you actually do help out.
Yeah, it's cool.
And make a difference.
Yeah, I love it.
Would you take on another professional sporting role now? Do you do?
Yeah. Well, I work with a couple of athletes that do involved in the Winter Olympics.
Yep. Okay. So you still.
I still do performance work with sporting people.
Yeah.
Outside of, but it's not full time where I'm traveling.
Yeah.
So I don't have to travel 35 weeks a year with a tennis player. You've got to, if you're the main coach, you're there traveling with them
the whole time.
So I'm not doing that at the moment. So I just work with individuals and teams. I will do things with them, but I don't have to be there all the time.
Yeah.
So the individual, I love all that stuff because it's just pushing the envelope a little bit.
Yeah. If you weren't doing what you're doing now, and money wasn't an option, you could do anything in the world. What would you be doing? These are my hard-hitting questions, mate.
Yeah. These are the hard-hitting ones. What would I do? Anything that I'm doing right now, so everything's off the table.
Anything. Good.
So everything I'm doing now is off the table. I've got to wipe that.
Well, I don't want to give too much away because I don't want to lead. But some people say what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's right. Some people say, "What are you doing?" I mean,
some people say like what I'm doing now is what I would be.
Yeah.
Doing. So for me, I'd be a Formula One driver.
Yeah. So for me, I would love to experience probably walking out at every major event and being able to line up. So I'd love the experience of walking out to the 100 metres at Olympic Games and being in the lineup. I'd love the experience of walking out into Wimbledon and being one of those players for the championships on that last day. Just the feeling of what I know as a coach, what the last day has felt like.
Yeah.
But as the athlete, of walking down, playing the last round at Augusta for the green jacket, and being the leader.
Yeah.
And having just the energy, anything that's got being at the front of the grid at Formula One, just the energy and being the guy. Those things would be like.
So for me, I mean, you're a moment,
what I mean?
You're a moment person.
Yeah.
Like you said, you're detailed, but you clearly live in the moment. A lot of people actually don't feel that.
No.
Like my wife would be at the Wimbledon Grand Final thinking about what's happening next week.
Yeah.
Like it's like, babe, you're here. Enjoy it. Feel it. It's a different feeling being at an event.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So, you know what I mean? So I like those as much, but I would also, as I've said to people, I'd love to have, I've got a plan, I've got a vision and a model that can put what I'm doing in my foundation at, 200 or 300 sites around Australia by the end of the next year. So, if I could help more people, more kids, I'd love to. So, but yeah, I suppose there's both ends, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you wish you'd known now? Like, what do you wish you'd known when you first started out? So let's say there's
easy.
There's a 16-year-old Rasheed
very
saying,
easy. But which is what I try and instill in people is don't be so critical with yourself.
Yeah.
The self-critique in us can be so extreme
Yeah.
that it's really damaging, and you've got to give yourself some like bit of love, and you actually got to like say, be kind to yourself, because I was really critical. Like, I had to hit the perfect shot when I was younger. No one taught me it. I did the perfect shot, and it had to be this high over the net and that close. And so therefore, because I'm dealing with tiny margins, I was going to fuck it up a lot. If I had just kept the margins a bit wider, I would have had more success in where I was hitting it, because I wasn't looking for the extreme. And then I became critical of myself. No, I can't do this. So I was always very negatively judgmental, even though I was a positive person. I used to hammer my performances. I was never walked off, and hardly ever walked off and thought,
"Oh, that was good.
That was good." Geez, I was in a space then. So it was always. It's like everything, right? We could play a game of football, and out of the 100 minutes, I could talk to you about 99 minutes of the stuff, JP, that you did really well. You were so God this minute. Then I could say, and if this 1 minute, this happened, it didn't quite work out. You'd walk out of there, you'd go, fucking 1 minute. That 1 minute, and it would drive you nuts. You know what I mean? Like you wouldn't make, that would be your first comment, the 1 minute.
Yeah.
Whatever, what was the negative word that they said? Right, I'm on that. So for me it would be, I would love, which I'm trying to instill in my daughter, is that be kind to yourself. She's very high end in that space. And it's like, be kind to yourself. Like, otherwise what will happen is you'll actually end up hating what you're doing, because you're so critical on it that you're never going to be satisfied with anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're never satisfied. It's good to be hard on yourself and to push yourself, but you've got to acknowledge when you've done some good things as well.
Yeah, and I think we as a society probably don't say that as much as like, well done, Ollie. Great edit.
Yeah.
Right. It's more of a, oh, that's wrong. Can you change that? Can you? And I think we're getting better. I think like by, pointing out the good and the bad, but not highlighting the bad. I mean, most times you do something bad and you hear about it.
Yeah.
But you don't hear about all the amazing good things. So, all right, that's good advice. So I think you've already said this, but if there was one thing that you could do, one thing that could impact the world, what would it be? Now, I've had all sorts of responses on this one.
Would I like to be the president of the United States for a day?
That is wild. No one has. I think you need more than a day.
A day, but I reckon I'd
like
love
a term,
to sit in the
maybe?
chair. Yeah, I'd love to sit in the chair. How cool would it be? Sit in the chair. Yeah.
That is hilarious. No one has even come close to doing that. So I love that answer.
I'm liking that spot.
So this is the last question. I know you'll be devastated by this, but this is the toughest question we have.
Yeah, I feel like I'm not going to be able to get there with this one.
Okay, so dig deep.
Yeah.
If you died and came back as a board game, what board game would best describe Roger Rasheed's life? Now, while you're thinking, because
can you throw me through?
Yeah. No, for instance, for me, I said Scrabble. So, sometimes I say stuff and it's really fucking good, and sometimes I say stuff and it's not so good. But either way, I'm saying stuff, I'm accumulating points, and I'm learning. Some people say snakes and ladders, like ups, downs. We've had Yahtzee. We've had Connect 4, I think.
Jeez, I don't.
Huh? I've had Risk.
I've barely lost a Connect 4 game ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've
not that's anything to anybody, but it means I've got that game dialed in.
So the other, well, that's like me talking about air hockey. I believe I'm probably the best air hockey player in the world. Yeah. I don't know. I'm assuming there's a world competition. I've lost one game that I can recall, and
I've
even
never lost a game of Monopoly to anyone younger than me, because I had a really good knack of just delivering a few notes underneath as the banker.
Okay. So, any of these games giving you some way to highlight? I mean, because it's tough, because you're probably sitting there going, I haven't played a fucking board game for so long.
Yeah. I think the Snakes and Ladder one's good because it's a good description, because if I looked at my life cycle, went along and rolled the right number, got the right numbers, then had a high, and then got up the board a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And I was 3 from the top. Then I got that long slithering snake that takes it down to the bottom.
Yeah.
And so that's when probably my back issues happened. So all of a sudden now I'm off the tennis tour and what's going to happen. So then I really rode that for about 5 6 years. What was my life going to be? Because at 21, you never think you're going to, that's it for your career. I thought I was going to play till I was mid-30, the early 30s or whatever. I'd have accumulate enough and I'd enjoy life and do whatever. But so I went through that cycle, and then, and then I had some highs of once I found my position again to be coaching, of what that coaching journey looked like. But through the journey of coaching, you do get lows because you have losses. With big players, you can have some losses where the lows actually they hurt because we generally win a lot. So the highs of building the player, lows of having your moments. You went through marital divorce. There's another. So it's it's probably been a lot about that. But in saying that, I've always loved the game of snakes and ladders because it was you always got some value, and then it could bite you somewhere.
Yeah.
So maybe that sits with me probably.
And I'm going to take that, and I'd like to thank you for coming in. And I must admit, I thought it'd be tough, like not drinking. I'll be honest. I actually thought not having, because normally it gets a little bit loose, but it's been fantastic. And I think we're 2.5 hours, probably closer to 3. And I think there's so much more that you can talk about because you're like me. You like to talk.
Yeah, no, I do like to talk. My daughter says that. Shut up.
Yeah, I don't quite. They're not. Yeah, they are saying that now. But I think we're storytellers, and I don't think there's many people that there is an art in storytelling, and you can go from the very old days of the one person with the town square telling all the information to Twitter.
You're 100% right. There's a thing about storytelling.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more that could have been. There's a lot more to the vehicle. And in fact, the biggest thing I do now when I talk to people about my journey is that as a 10-year-old, I sat in front of a door at Lebanon in the middle of the Civil War, and I held a rifle to the door, and my mum said, if they keep knocking on the door, pull the trigger.
Yeah.
And I was in the middle of a civil war when I was a 10-year-old kid in Lebanon with my sister. We went there for the first time to visit my mum's mother who was dying. So my mum took us over there, bang in the middle of a civil war, and sat there for 4 months. It was pretty extraordinary. Amazing how you naturally got into war mode.
Yeah, wow.
After a few weeks where I'd walk around with a pistol down my.
It's crazy, isn't it?
So,
I mean, you see it, but you don't. You see it on like YouTube and docos.
It becomes the norm that you just because you have that's the environment. Anyway, so there's some cool. So from that kid to the journey of being able to get the experience. I've been lucky enough, obviously, to get the right horse, but sometimes be in the moment. But also, you've got to be, as you know, in your trade, in your business, you've got to be good enough. Because if you're not good enough, you get found out pretty quickly and you're on the scrap heap. And you've got to have something that's sustainable, that's good enough, that's growing, that impacts and creates value. And then therefore you've got to, you can have a career in doing something. So and that's a kid who went to Pembroke, who left Pembroke at the end of year 10. So as my daughter says, you're a dropout, Dad. And then she says, when you pass away, will those Porsches be in will I be getting those? So I'm not sure. I'm trying to work out where that sits, where that all sits.
Luckily for me, the girls are liking the smaller car wins with the girls. So they're like, Dad, can we have that little one? I said, sure.
Yeah, sign here.
So thanks very much for coming in.
Thanks, really enjoyed
awesome information, and I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, JP. Beauty, mate.
Yo.